Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Tea Time with Barry and Larry. Of course, Gary and Terry faked their own deaths off the coast of Ibiza, trying to avoid taxes. So now I'm going to guest host another podcast about tea. Today we have Tom Barnett, and we'll probably talk about tea at some point to fulfill my contractual obligation to Barry and Larry. But we'll talk about health, masculinity, stories, everything under the sun. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Tom Barnett, how are you, brother?
Going good. Thanks, Alan.
Oh, dude, I'm so pumped to chat with you. And I love that you are doing your own website, tombarnett.tv. It's the move. Let me make sure we're live. Good evening. Another epic crossing of streams. All right, sweet. I'm just getting verified because I get kicked off things in real time. So, like, as I'm doing a stream, I have to be like, can you guys hear me? Sup,
Yeah.
BB? All right, awesome. Yeah, so it's definitely the future because it's like doing YouTube, and I know you do a lot on Facebook when you're not in a timeout, or Instagram. It's great to like reach new people, but you got to have what we call the castle grounds, where like you have this safe environment where like they can't just throw a switch and get rid of you when you question germ theory. So Tom Barnett TV, everybody, make sure you bookmark that and stay in touch with Tom because he's just a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah, well, look, it's pretty awesome because, like you say, these other channels, they're good for reaching people, and but people have got to realize that unless they go follow people on like a legit private account of some kind, whether it's an email list or whether it's your website or whatever, it's like there's going to be a time when you can't reach us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. No matter how many times we open new accounts, it's all going to go at some point. So the only real way that the last thing that'll go is emails, really. So, getting on email subscriber lists or private sites or whatever it is, like your unauthorized.tv, that's kind of the first thing I realized. I was like, that's what he's doing because, you're just not going to be around on those public channels forever.
Yeah, and it's we get to charge our own battery. Like that's why we're doing Barataria Times, and me and you sync up a lot with how we view the world. So I know you get it. Where it's like it's not even about hiding or like avoiding their censorship. It's also about letting our community charge itself. Where if you're around other like-minded people who have similar values and similar goals in life, you feed off each other. Versus out there, in the Facebook realm, a lot of times it's like, they suck off us, or they're scared by us, or we trigger them. And so to be in a place where it isn't constant triggering and trolling and fighting and like, how dare you say we didn't go to the moon? It's like that stuff can be exhausting. So that's why Barataria Times, like people scroll through it and they're like, man, I feel like I have more energy now. Like, I think that's the point of what social media could be if we just start not needing a million people to sell our essential oils and boner powder. If it's like, if it's about building the community, we get currency that isn't money. It's much more valuable.
Yeah, well, that's the real currency anyway, isn't it? It's like the money's just there to direct the flow of the real energy. And so when I agree. It's like you go through something that's all uplifting and all guys and girls that are crushing. It's just like it fills you up on a level that money and everything else can't do.
Yeah, man. And I got a lot of respect for you when you call out bullshit, because so many people, even if they're not scumbags, even if they're not tricksters, they still won't call it out because they don't want to rock any boats. But like, it's so obviously ridiculous, these like multi-level Ponzi schemes of like essential oil and these like things that no one needs. Like the best nutrition is just food in nature. But yet these people are like, oh no, you need this like special thing that you get like 20 feet down in the Himalayan mountains, and like it's like $1,000 a gram. I'm like, and you openly make fun of that. And man, I love that you do that, because a lot of young people are looking at guys like us like, are we allowed to make fun of liars? And it's like, yeah, you are,
Yeah, it's like we make fun of it. It's not like we say that they're necessary. I mean, some of them definitely are evil, but a lot of them, they're just kind of maybe just got a bit caught up in their own sense of what they think's going on. And it's not necessarily that kind of consciously trying to mislead people, but we're allowed to make fun of them. And
Yeah, yeah.
sometimes I call names, but most of the time it's not like, it's got no malice behind it. It's just calling it for what it is and having a bit of fun with it.
Yeah, and it's also good for them, is what you said. Like, especially in these times, I'm always asking myself, what's the awareness level? Like, what's the consciousness of someone's actions? Because I've done a lot of horrible shit in my life, and it was typically the result of having no idea what I was doing, where I was like, yeah, just like banging all these chicks is great for everybody. It's like, this is a win, and stuff like that. Or like when I was in Hollywood, be like, man, there's nothing better than being on a sitcom in Warner Brothers. Like, these guys are great. So I totally understand what you're saying, where it's like, what's their awareness level? They're not like evil. Yeah, I try not to call pretty much anybody evil these days. It's so like hard to figure out. But it's almost like you're trying to help course correct other people to not make mistakes that you figured out. Where it's like, hi, I'm Ben Shapiro and I'm selling shades. Promo code Ben for like really expensive shades. It's like, if you can't make fun of that, then I don't want to be a comedian,
Yeah. But also being a comedian isn't necessarily being super funny. Sometimes it's pointing out the obvious. Like the comedy writes itself with the way people present themselves.
Totally.
In a lot of cases, you're like, all I have to do is point out what you're doing, and that's the comedy.
Exactly. That's what got me into comedy. I never considered myself funny. I was like, I played piano. I was like, my dad taught public speech, so I knew I was good at that. But like, I just say shit that was blatantly obvious. People would laugh. And my first album, I was gonna call it "Why Are They Laughing," but Sandler did "They'll All Laugh at You," which is a little too similar. But like, that was a feeling I definitely had, where you point out an obvious in reality. Like Caitlyn Jenner's Woman of the Year, but hasn't been a woman for a full year yet. Like shit like that, you just point it out, and people are like, ha ha ha, and I'm like, no, but seriously, like, how is that mathematically even possible? And like, just that or like, I spent all day thinking about whether or not I was self-absorbed, and people just laugh, and you're like, oh, I see that's funny. And so that's kind of like, especially in these times, it's like, once they went with anal swabbing and multiple masks, it's like, how do people not laugh,
Yeah. Yeah, totally. That's why I think it's almost there. Some part of it in a twisted way is them having fun as well.
Yeah,
it's like they've got to know that that's funny,
Yeah, totally. Yeah, anal swabs, I feel like it's either they're being funny or they're like really perverted, where they're like, we can finger their nose and we'll finger their ass. Like, it's either like demonically about fingering something, or it's like they're being funny. There's no way that's serious. Like, there's no way they're like, the only way to test for COVID is to like get you to bend over and stick some in your ass. Like, I think the dudes who did the moon landing and a lot of these other guys, I think there is like a real sense of humor to it, but it's also, I don't know, it's almost like tricking little kids. It's not really like healthy. It's like convincing a little kid something that like my brother told me I could get cancer of the hair when I was a kid, and I kept shaving my head, freaking out, and he'd laugh, and it's like, that's funny, I guess, but like, not really. It's like I was a little kid who was like, kept shaving my head because I thought I'd get hair cancer. It's kind of like the moon landing, where it's like, oh yeah, these 3 baby boomers played golf on the moon. And everyone's like, no fucking way. I don't know. I think there's some cruelty to the anal swab, but I guess if people do it, you're kind of showing human nature to the world. I don't know.
Yeah, and you can probably, maybe one day those that lined up for an anal swab will laugh about it. You know how you say that thing, one day we'll look back and laugh about that.
I'll tell you, like George Floyd, I don't know if you follow the George Floyd bullshit in America and Australia, but his teacher was named Waynell Sexton. That's why I started calling the CIA the Comedy Infusion Agency, because it's like, that's better writing than SNL. It's like anal sex. It's like Waynell Sexton. And then taught George Floyd 30 years ago and saved all his drawings. So you have just this random dude who's like drawing that he wants to be a judge, and Waynell Sexton just saves all his homework for 3 decades and then looks surprisingly like other mothers in other shooting events, and you're like, dude, these guys are fucking great. There was the Comedy Infusion Agency did an article of the first gay country music writer. His name was Wayne McAnally. It was like a full Yahoo story, like good old Wayne McAnally. Oh man, it's like, you know, I think some of the Epstein shit was scripted, like, cause this one victim, quote unquote, was named Virginia Roberts, which is Virgin Robber. And like sometimes when they name them that way, like, I'm just like, that's fucking hilarious, you know?
Yeah. Did you see the video I did where we made up some signs? So they tried to do a lockdown here around Byron Bay fairly recently, and they started doing PCR testing at one of the main sport fields car park, and it's on the main road in and out of Byron.
Yeah,
so we got some sandwich boards, and we wrote anal swabs this way in the way that people were going into the thing, and then we wrote common sense this way to like bypass it and keep going the other way.
Yeah.
And it went around everywhere. It made the mainstream news because on the Saturday there was no one. They only tested 8 people, and the mainstream news was trying to attribute it to our signs, saying like, because there were no anal swabs, but it's like it's so funny thinking that people will still sit in their car lining up to go past a sign that says they're going towards an anal swab. And yeah, it was classic.
Dude, that's hilarious. That dude, humor can break through programming. That's why it's really good to do. Like when they were doing the Me Too shit, and I was, I still had like hundreds of thousands of YouTube subscribers and stuff. I did this super serious video that I was raped by Matt Damon, and like just the accusation is proof. Like I like to give them the world that they ask for to like show it, and I think that jarred some people out of the ridiculous hell that they were living. Dude, how funny would it be if like you were doing that and it was just a bunch of gay dudes like, dude, you promised I'd get swabbed. Like all these dudes.
Yeah, but I know that people would have rolled up to the testing site and asked if it was an anal swab, because that sign was up for 2 days and hundreds of cars were going through into the testing area. They would have asked. They definitely would have been asking.
That's hilarious. Yeah, it sounds like you're doing some, that your area is pretty cool down there, that people aren't really reacting. Because that's the whole thing. It's like, I'm in America. There's multinational corporations here, just like everywhere else, like Home Depot, all that shit. They have the same protocol, same guidelines of the CDC. And in North Idaho, it's like, right now it's like 5% mass maybe. And it's like, you know, so it's only the people doing it. You know, they can just put a sign that says anal swabs this way. And if people bend over and take their pants off, they're going to get swabbed. And if they don't, they're not. And, you know, I think a lot of these people that are obsessed with the tyranny of it, I'm like, but are you doing it though? You know, and it's like, I love listening to your podcast. I've listened to every one of them because it's like you're in a world that I like. You know, it's that simple. You're in a world of like, yeah, but we don't do that though. And that's literally everywhere. Like downtown Manhattan would be that if people just were like, nah, you know?
Yeah, totally. But that's a good thing because it teaches, these are almost lessons. It's like, I mean, we spoke about this last time we had a chat too. It's that there's this element where I've got some level of belief that they're doing this for people's benefit, where they're like, guys, this is what we're doing, but it's all about consent. As soon as you learn what consent is all about, this all stops. Now, obviously there's still satanic child molesting, like, there's still all that, but at the same time, there's an element of choice that they're still giving everyone. And like you said, it just comes down to people saying, no, we're good. Thanks for the offer, but I'm making this decision. And not enough people do it. Well, depending on where you are. But like you say, people can go around and not everybody's doing it. Not everybody's getting a hard time. And that's the thing. That should show people, if their mind is open, that should show them, hey, look, this is optional. This is a choice. It's not, it's nothing more than that.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I think that's, I think they do that. I'm not sure because I don't know very much about the hardcore cult. I try not to like go too deep into that, but do they have to show us? Or is it like, I don't know. Is it like a way to train? See, I have a hard time thinking that they're trying to help us because they're so fucked up, but I think like God allows the fucked up people to almost like teach. I don't know. It's almost like sending a kid out into the wilderness. It's not like you're like encouraging the wolf to bite him, but the existence of the wolf will train him to understand stuff, you know?
Yeah, That's how I see it. I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
that they, I mean, this is only what I think. I don't know for sure, but I think that they know that they have a fear of what's more powerful than them as well, which is actually us. We're the ones that are more powerful than them. But
Yeah.
at the same time, they fear us, but they also understand their place where if they go against nature's laws completely or God's laws, there are consequences. And I think they know that. And that's why they have TV personalities and comedians and people on the mainstream shows saying stuff, making jokes about moon landings, about, touching kids and about, masks and whatever. They make the jokes, which is their way of telling us and wrapping it up in a way that people just don't realize that we're being told. So I do think that there's that element of they do have to actually say what's going on, but they're allowed to cloak it any way they like. But as long as they put it out, they kind of bypass a higher level of karma from a higher realm.
Yeah.
That's what I think. I don't know for sure.
Bro, I'm 100% with you. That's why I avoid sarcasm. And sarcasm, especially in these times, is very enjoyable. And but I avoid it because I think there's a weird realm shit to it where you're like, so this is America? So now I chop off my dick and I'm a woman? And it's like, and then there's like a demonic realm that's like, check, he said it. Because sarcasm can be fun and irony is really fun. Like we're now starting to compete with the Babylon Bee with Unbearables Media. Like we do our own satire articles because although I really enjoy some of the Babylon Bee's articles, they shill so hard for Israel that I warn them because they steal a lot of my jokes. And I'm like, if you don't make it even, if you don't make fun of Israelis, because they're some of the most ridiculous people. Like you have to be able to make fun of Ben Shapiro types. They're like these materialistic, autistic, strange people. I'm going to compete with you. And so satire is great, where it's like to do it like The Onion. But sarcasm is almost like a weird consent where the American right wing is worse than the left wing at this point, even though I always consider myself, well, for years now, more right wing because of the freedom stuff and family stuff. But like, at least the left wing has a plan. The right wing just goes like, so this is America? So I guess now my kid's going to learn how to butt fuck in third grade. And everybody's like, yeah. And they're like, so you're telling me? And they just keep doing that and nothing happens. They're just parroting. Yeah. They're literally just like parroting back the plan of the left. And I'm anti-vaccine. I'm pro-organic, which was typically liberal. So like I'm like 20% liberal. But like, but now that I look at it, I can't even associate with the American conservative because they're such victim-y babies. They're just like, so I guess now I have to give you my gun and chop off my own dick. And then they do it. They like hand over the gun and chop their dicks off. And I'm like, you chopped your dick off. Like Steven Crowder, all these guys, they're endorsing Caitlyn Jenner for California governor. Like they actually are doing it. They're like, oh, the left is coming for Caitlyn now because they call her she and everything. And dude, I had a transsexual piano teacher growing up. Like I know that there's like 1 in 1,000 people that have this weird spirit ambiguity thing going on. I know that's true, but like the agenda is bullshit. And so calling Caitlyn she and then having the right wing back, quote unquote, her is like a humiliation ritual. It's a fucking anal swab, And so I'm like, you guys are pussies. Like at least when I was in Hollywood, they had a plan. They're like, we want to chop your dick off. But at least the right is like, so I guess I chop my dick off,
Yeah. Well, you know where they're going now?
Where?
You know where all the Hollywood are going? Yeah.
Where?
They're coming to Byron. Byron Bay, they're already buying it up.
Yeah, same with Idaho.
Matt Damon and that are already here. Leonardo DiCaprio bought like a big manor, like 20 Ks up the road from me. They're all that's the agenda from what I hear. That all the billionaire elitists are going to New Zealand. They're buying up New Zealand, and all the level below them in the Hollywood elite, they're buying up Byron. And it's an indication that something's going down in California where something's going down. I don't know why, but they're bailing it for a reason, and they're coming here.
Oh, dude, like where I live in North Idaho, like near Sandpoint, like I live down the street from a former Secretary of Agriculture and like, Viggo Mortensen and like all these dudes are like buying up land up here. And I'm like, They get it at least. The problem I have with some of those guys, though, not the guys I just named, but like DiCaprio and those guys, is like they were part of the agenda that ruined California, though. It's one thing if you're just like getting out, like Vince Vaughn's a great guy. I've known him forever. He's like been into gold and land and crushing and being funny forever. So like if Vince Vaughn comes to Byron Bay, that's one thing. But like when you got these global warming retards coming that are like pushing globalism and they're just trying to flee, that's a problem. And I think the locals will start reacting, especially when the dollar collapses.
Yeah. That's the thing. But that's the thing. We know that these people are part of the part that we don't want anywhere near us. Like, they're not the guys that are, like you said, not every single Hollywood actor is necessarily in on everything, but a large proportion are. And It's those ones on that side that we don't like. That's what the agenda's doing. They're buying up here, and I don't know the full reason, but there's, they don't do it for no reason,
Yeah, and don't you think like they're also kind of self-destructive too? Like I don't think New Zealand is I don't know, it seems like a total nanny state to me. It doesn't seem like a place I'd go if I had $1 billion and I was trying to avoid a collapse, Like if you're good with sheep and guns and shit, it sounds awesome, but like I got a lot of friends in New Zealand and it seems like they're getting very, very nanny state.
Yeah. Yeah, but they also have I don't know the full structure. I've got a few guys that work in intelligence and things, and there's something about New Zealand that's there's a reason they've got, you know what I mean? There's a reason they're doing it. Like the government system is just like they're way above that.
Good point. Yeah. New Zealand. I mean, location wise, it's pretty killer for avoiding all kinds of social unrest. Because I think America's going to start eating itself. I think like the cities will become post-apocalyptic, but it's not COVID-19. It's not global warming. It's the collapse of the dollar and complete dependency and no masculinity. It's like when the dependent class, like the dependent class is so gigantic, and I'm like, they have no access to water, food. Their health is deteriorating. Their head is filled with lies. They don't know their neighbors. They can't defend themselves. Like people don't look. It's just like. And we're feeling it here. There's already, whether it's manufactured collapses or just authentic, it's going down. And so a lot of our intelligence people live in the Ozarks and Idaho. And it's probably similar to where you live in New Zealand because they know what's coming. I think in the next year it's going to be like, and I think, what's your thoughts on this vax where it's like, do you think there's going to be mass death from it, or is there another slow burn like all the other vaxes?
Not sure. I really don't know. It's funny though, because if you look at official stats, there's been a ton of deaths from them already. But it's definitely going to be part of the depopulation. But I don't know whether it's an immediate one or a slow burn. I'm not sure which it's going to be, or it might be both. It might be depending on, they've developed it in a way that it weeds out. It's like, imagine like it's Roundup and it kills some weeds instantly and other weeds really slowly. But the overall purpose of it is death, whether it's fast or slow, but it'll affect different people in different ways and in different places too. I think it's going to be, I don't believe that there's one, type. There's like, this is the stuff we're passing off to America. These are the ones we'll send to Africa. These are the ones we'll send to Australia. No, I think it's like that. Yeah.
Cause I think a lot of the vaccines they sent to Africa, they called it AIDS. I think it was a lot more like direct kill. And I think there's that in America too, because in America, a lot of people view the left-wing agenda of like affirmative action and George Floyd can do no wrong and all that. And I keep trying to remind these people that levels above all that are puppeting all that, they're trying to kill as many black people as humanly possible. They just hide it. They're like, the real eugenicists, like the ones that fund Soros, are like not into black people, And so they've been trying to kill indigenous populations forever. And that's really who they're going after. And then they go after, but if you're in that beast system, they go after you eventually. The Irish didn't consider white, or Italian, and then the poor of England. And, it's a snake eating itself. Like if you're in that world where you want to manage life and kill people you don't understand, or that that you see you're above, like it's going to eat your family. That's why these billionaires that are going to New Zealand and Byron Bay, I almost hear that song Sinner Man in my head by Nina Simone, where it's like, where are you going to run to, Sinner Man? You know, like no matter where they go, they're there, and there's nothing they can do about it.
Yep. And that's the thing. I don't know. I know that there's one thing that's very strong about the area here around Byron. First of all, it's the first place that the light hits in the morning. Like it's the most easterly point, and there's many ley lines that run through this region. It's a very energetically strong area. There's a lot of quartz under the ground. There's a lot about it that's known. Like in indigenous culture, it's known as like the land of first light here. And people used to trek from the west coast of Australia, which takes 6 hours to fly, and like however long, it's many thousands of kilometers.
Yeah.
And they used to make pilgrimages from the west coast to this region every certain number of years. They would walk that whole distance over the course of a year or whatever it took to get specifically to here. So it's very mineral rich, it's very energy dense, and it's very some other stuff that I have no idea about, but I know it's a special place. And in New Zealand, it has there's similar attributes to it as well. Plus, I know geologists and people in different realms of life, like military specialists, geologists, people that study topography, fault lines, everything else. And they've said, I've heard for 20 years, well before I moved here, and I did move here for this reason, but it's all coming around now. And they said the safest place in the world is the Northern Rivers of New South Wales, which is this region. From a point of view of if there was all-out war, if there were massive, shifts in like tidal waves and whatever else is going to happen, this is actually the safest place. And it always just was a point of interest. I was like, oh, that's interesting, but as if that's ever going to be needed or necessary. But now the way I see what's going on in the world and the reason that people are coming here, I go, maybe there's something in that. You know, and I heard it from a number of different people. So,
yeah, I can see that. I can totally see that, man. It seems like a really special place. Oh, and if you guys want to ask Tom anything, entropystream.live/app/Owen Benjamin Comedy. He's a wealth of information, everything from health to law. And your law work, I think, is really important in these times of consent because the whole staying in honor and making a claim, that's helped me a lot based on huge reactions I'd get for some of my opinions. Like, for example, I would say I was a flat earther, but now my claim is realm earth because I can't prove flat earth, but I can make a claim it's not a spinning ball in infinite black. And I think it's like that legal work that you've done, I think can apply to everything in life where, you know, people say that this is a simulation. And I'm like, you can't make that claim because you have to be out of the simulation to see a simulation. You know, I can't prove my current thought of the realm, but I can prove with every experiment you can do that it can't be 8 inches per mile squared and spinning. So I think that like saying I'm a flat earther can trigger people because I think there is an element of like claim to it where it's like when someone says, you know, in law, when someone makes a claim, you have to back that up, and it's a more dangerous place to be than if you're asking questions where it's like, you know, how does a 40-foot lighthouse work where somebody can see the light 80 miles away if it's 8 inches per mile squared? It'd be thousands of miles under the horizon. You know, like you can ask those questions, but to make a claim, I think that's when you get the real demonic reaction. What's your thoughts on that?
Totally, yeah, completely agree. It's not this is what I keep saying as well. It's not a law thing. It's not like you use it if you have a legal case. It's actually the law, which is LORE. It comes from nature's laws as well, and the whole part of making a claim that comes from the Bible. It's not like the courts made it up. It comes from the Bible. So you need to actually. It's like you just said. It's an everyday skill, and it actually makes you much more self-aware and self-responsible because then you don't just go running your mouth. And I say the same thing too. People go, "Well, are you saying the Earth's flat?" And I say, "No, I'm not saying it's flat. I just know beyond a shadow of a doubt it's not a spinning ball, but I don't know what it actually is."
Exactly.
So, you know, it's like that's all we do is when you do that too, you actually take a polarity out of the engagement or your own self, because when you make a solid claim, unless you can back it up, there is that element of polarity because there's a strong yes as opposed to a strong no. There's a division there.
Yeah.
And it's not just a division between two people or races or cultures. It's actually a division within yourself as soon as you do that. So it's really important, actually. I've been finding over the last several years as well that I need to be moving away from making all out claims unless I have the evidence for it. Otherwise, it's just a question.
Yeah, totally, man. And it's like, and it also restarts the whole problem that got us here in the first place, where, you know, I could easily see someone creating this man-made dogma around flat Earth and saying, how dare you, immediately, you know, and then the cycle kicks back in, which originally got us to this point in the first place. You know, it's like, it's the same thing with like Catholics and Jews in America. They form this battery of like the pit and the pedestal, where one group requires victim consciousness, like everyone's trying to hurt me, and then the other group is like, only through us do you get to God. And so it's like a battery where it's like, that's why I try not to engage in any of that anymore, because I realized that the quote unquote, and I don't even know if they're real Jews or is the word Zionist or synagogue, I don't care, but it's like there's a group of people that want you to hate them because it gives them a battery charge, and then there's a group that want you to feel shame and confess your sins in their little box because they want to feel like they're on a pedestal. And the pedestal is just as bad as the pit, where people can be tortured on that pedestal. You see it with movie stars. I mean, I've met Leonardo DiCaprio and these guys, like really tormented people, because it's like when every time you meet someone, they're like, oh my God, like you can't grow. It stunts your growth. You feel like an imposter. You get idol worshipped. Like the pedestal sucks. That's why it's like, so does the pit. And so it's really interesting how flat Earth can create the same battery where it's like, I know the Earth is flat, you know, start the cycle, start the generator. And it's like that with so many of these highly divisive things, like the vax. That's why I did that stream about the script flip, where there was going to come a time when people were going to say, if you have the vaccine, you're now the leper. I'm going to wear a mask around you. And that's just the battery. You know, it's like, are we scared of other people, or do we know it's terrain? You know, it's like, you can't have it both ways. Like, I'm all in on terrain theory. And it's like, hugging another person is not going to kill you. I don't give a shit whether it's my side or someone else's side. You know, it's like Andrew Cuomo, they say he killed all these people by putting COVID patients in a nursing home. And I can't stand Andrew Cuomo, you know, but I'm like, no, I don't think you kill people like that. I don't think being around people with COVID kills you. And they're like, yeah, but we hate them. And I'm like, but it's not true, though. And as soon as you engage in that bullshit, your energy just keeps getting sucked away to a far off generator, you know?
Yep, totally. And that's why I've also gotten away from despising people in general.
Yeah.
Because there is the element of like, if I despise somebody, there's some element of that in me. And for me, it's that polarity as well. So when if I can talk about him or, you know, Bill Gates or Soros or Fauci or anyone like that, and I have no emotion behind my voice, like I'm just like, oh yeah, Gatesy, instead of like that fucking Gates, you know, like that kind of thing. Then like I'd love to just, or if I had a rifle, I just, you know, that kind of thing. It's like there's that's fine, but then there's that polarity in me, and that polarity creates the energy. That's the battery that they actually feed off. So they win either way. That's why they create this thing, and that's why they've created all the shedding stuff. Where now you want to be you want to be careful of the vaccinated. So now there's more division, and there's more like get away from me. Like they're like, get away from me, you unvaccinated, irresponsible person. And now people that are buying into this are going, you get away from me, you horrid, demonic, vaccinated person. So either way, there's still this division, and that division, like they put in the Matrix movie, you know, that energy goes to their battery farms essentially, because it's not created or destroyed. If we're giving it away, it goes somewhere. It's only transmuted, and they have ways of actually harnessing that.
100%.
And that's why, yeah, the further I've gone into things, the more I've gone, they just want my energy. It's not about vaccines or traveling anywhere or this or that or like who's peddling kids or whatever. It's about me. It's what it's all about. And as soon as I lose the polarity about that, I just go, okay. And I find that it's not leaching out of me anymore. I just go, this is what it's like to have my own energy. It feels really good.
It's so true, man. And a big energy harvest that I saw in real time recently was that Lil Nas X, gay lap dancing with Satan. Like I didn't buy this one at all, because I fell for a lot of them, and I'd get really angry and about the tricking my friends into dying in war and opioids and media and pedophilia and all this stuff, and like it doesn't work on me anymore. And Lil Nas X was one of the first ones where I was like, oh, you're like a stripper that wants attention. It's like I know like buddies that have dated strippers, or just like when I've dated like Hollywood actresses and stuff, it's like there's a certain type of woman where they'll take any attention any way they can get it, whether it's flirting with your boss or like ODing on coke. Like they just want you to be like, just there, like just focused on them, whether it's negative or positive. And I see these Bill Gates types and a lot of these entertainers is like no different, where they want to almost feel like a villain or a hero. They don't care. They just want to feed, And so that's why I think streams like ours are really enjoyable for people, because, we're never going to get the size of the fear porn, because I think a lot of those people are just marching to hell, in my opinion. Like our audience is never going to be like CNN, who gets to tell you every day that, basically your neighbor's going to kill you. But the people that get it, I don't think there's a lot of places on the internet where they can go and not be like scared for no reason and be harvested,
Totally, yeah, and that's why I was calling out the people, and not calling them names, but just go, I reckon they're a shill. I reckon they're lying to you, because they're like, doctors that are just stuck in their old paradigm, and they're part way to trying to steer away from the mainstream narrative, which collects all the people who are falling out of the mainstream narrative, and it collects them. They're like, come here, listen to me. And I'm just going, but they're just leading you off to another dead end as well. And it's because of the fear. That's the underlying element. I'm like, like you said, like God can allow all these things, but only to a degree. And there's the element where you have to have that faith, and the faith and the fear are like opposite ends to each other.
Yeah,
and just knowing that where there's fear being peddled, there is some way to disempower you.
Yep.
So why can't they just offer real solutions, or even talk about it in a different tone of voice? It's like, why is there always this particular tone? And there's like, I just don't, as soon as I hear it, I'm just like, nah, that's not it. Whatever you're saying is not it.
Totally, dude.
Because of that.
Yeah, like nobody's talking about how I can get 4 gallons of milk from that one cow every day. Like I'll watch like hours and hours of these like the end is near bullshit, and not one of them is just giving you like how you've talked about raw meat, like raw saturated meat, and how good that is for you, or like how natural foods can heal this, and you have all these like answers for stuff, and that's really empowering. Even if it doesn't work for everybody and everybody's body's different, it's really cool to know that you don't need a script and like a drugstore and then like special bullshit. You can just start eating better and start sleeping better, and then your health will be better. And it's just so true. It's fucking crazy true. But like that fear stuff is how they keep people looking at them. When like they're just constantly dialing in, like, what's gonna happen if I don't watch? Am I not gonna be able to save my family? And I'm like you too. It's like every time I get scared, which isn't super often, honestly. I've never really had a high fear response, but I do sometimes. And like something in the news or something from like a friend. I don't watch the news, but like something will get me like, oh fuck. And then I immediately register it as like, oh, that means it's false. Because like if my response is like be afraid, I'm like, oh, okay. And it's weird. Even if it's my own internal voice, I ask myself like, is that really your voice, or is that another voice? Like it sounds like my voice. It's like, hey Owen, it's me. You should be really fucking scared of, this. And I'm like, that's not you. And they're like, oh fuck, he's on to me. And then they run away.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, unless they like released a whole bunch of, I don't know, flying tigers or something that they have under wraps somewhere, then yeah, that's something to fear, because that's what our fear mechanism does. It's in real time. So when there's something that's chasing us and it can eat us, that's what our fear mechanism is there for. It's actually a very positive thing. It's very life affirming.
Yeah.
But the other kind of fear, which is the narrative fear, that's not life affirming at all, and it's not happening in real time. We're creating something that's a falsity, which is an energy drain. And that's the thing is, and I know it because I've been in it too. I'm not just saying that I'm out, I know what it's like. For example, when I was first really ill and I was relying on supplements, well, at least I thought I was, because I had such I was so immunocompromised that I was sure that all the olive leaf extract, all the zinc, all the vitamin C, all the stuff I was taking, which was, I didn't even have the money to spend on it. And I thought, if I don't have it, it's all over. And then I did go totally broke and living on the streets. And then I'm like, hey, I haven't had those supplements for a month and I actually feel better being homeless and without supplements. And I was living in fear. My fear was holding on to the idea that I needed something outside of myself to fulfill myself. And I see that even in the doctors that I was referring to, I can't remember their names anymore, but the ones that are peddling the fear, I'm like, they're giving a solution and it's their product. It's create the fear, create the need, and then sell them the solution. Whereas the solution is right behind you, right there. That's all the solution.
Yeah,
and like
totally.
you said earlier, that's available to everybody. People herded themselves into cities. They weren't herded at gunpoint into cities. They herded themselves there.
Exactly.
So they wanted convenience. They wanted an illusory life. And so this is the result, as opposed to this, where you can literally just go get yourself a gallon of milk, which is going to, that's nature's medicine. So is the sunlight. So is the air. So is the soil that you've got around you. So is the loving nature of your family. Like, so is your faith in God. Like, all of that is, that's the saving grace from the zombie apocalypse, so to speak.
Exactly.
It's not in a pill or some expert on the internet or anything like that. So it's so amazing how achievable and attainable the answers are, because they're right in front of us, yet we still think it's behind a paywall or a firewall or something else.
Yeah, that's why I think God allows it, is like sometimes going a few days without food is like the cleanse your body needs, and you won't face it. It's like so many people are kicking and screaming to hold on to what's killing them. Like my biggest fear recently, like a big fear I had was when trolls got CPS to go to my house. And so all the programming of Hollywood movies of like kids being dragged out of the house by like guys with guns. And, when you got Child Protective Services coming to your house, like we have reports that you're like, it was crazy. Like, it was all fake. It was all from like, one of the emails that they used was like suckcock@gmail. It's like absurd, but they were using the mechanisms of government. And so that was real fear for me. And Amy was so good in that time. And she just goes, I'm like pacing, I can't sleep, and she goes, you're a good father. I'm like, I know, but what if and she goes, Owen, you're a good father. Like, you are a good father. And I'm like, yeah, but what if, and she goes, you're a good father. And it got me out of it. I'm like, I am a good father. She goes, then be yourself. And the fact that I didn't have a fear response when they came for the interview. By the end, they gave me their cards. They apologized. They said, if we need anything, we can call them. They were kind of embarrassed. And if I had reacted in fear, like all these, like some of these guys that are like thinking that the UN's coming to get them and they got it. I know guys that have like drums full of bullets. Like, at any point, when in reality, the guy that comes, if you don't have that fear response, you won't trigger their response. Like if I went to the door and I was like, get the fuck out of here, I'm a good father, fuck you, that triggers the next round. And then maybe I would dive into that underworld of fear. And it's like, I now see that everywhere. And that's why so many of the things that the demonic entities try to use against me, it's got nothing on, having a baby, making $20,000 a week, and then making zero with like all these taxes and all this. And I go back to hauling brush with my brother because I won't cuck on the trans kid stuff. Like those fears that I faced is one of the reasons why I don't get rattled. And same with you, like you've been through hell. So it's like when someone's like spiked proteins, you're like, fuck you, like what? So I think you're right on the money, man, where it's like fear is what puts you in that realm where that low vibration will actually attract the very thing you're scared of. And I think fear is much worse than the natural endocrine response that you talked about in a recent stream, because I think fear has the lack of action attached to it. Because I've had real fears. I've had, animals trying to kill my livestock and really intense shit. If you're moving, it's like a high alert state. It's fear, but it's not like that static fear where you're just sitting there like in it. Because I think that's what like really drives people insane and kind of like gives them cancer and shit, you know?
Totally. Well, you actually nailed it because the somatic response to fear is movement. So when you want to work through, for example, if you're doing some, there's different names to it, but like biophysical, energetic exercise, whatever, it's actually moving through the stuck emotion or the stuck feeling. So various emotions or feelings actually make your organs move forward, back, around, whatever. They actually move. And so you want to move with it. Like grief wants to pull on something.
Yeah.
Fear makes you just want to fucking like leg it
Yeah.
full speed, like an actual all-out sprint. And as you move, you're moving through the fear. It's no longer a fear that has you stuck. It's actually moving. And so, and you nailed it. Like people, the mental fear, it's like you sit, it's inert. You sit still and it sucks you down. As opposed to moving through it or with it, then it's not, it doesn't have that negative effect where it'll destroy you. And it can. It will turn into cancer. It will turn into creating your own super negative reality because of the fear. You'll actually attract it all. And fear is their realm, like you said. And it's the currency, it's their realm, it's what they feed on, it's what moves things around. But we do have the option to not be there. It is a choice. So when we move out of the fear realm and we're operating on a higher frequency, we're no longer their subjects because we've uncontracted from that kind of level, you know, that they're trying to get us into.
Exactly, man. It's like that. Jesus said, don't be afraid 365 times in the Bible, one for every day. Fear not, don't be afraid. One spiritual thing that I've had to get through is I would immediately transmute fear to anger. And I had to get better at that because I wouldn't allow myself to feel fear. And I went through a lot of very fearful times and it would just immediately become anger. It was like that energy would just, and that's still low. You know, it's kind of like when you say, you don't want to hate Bill Gates, even if you're like, I'm going to fuck that dude up, I'm going to hit him with a pipe. It's like, that's still engaging. That's still intimacy. There's almost like an element of like sexuality to it where you're like, where there's like a gravitational connection to it. That's why, all right, we got some questions for you. EntropyStream.live/app/Owen Benjamin Comedy. Okay, this is from Trout Whisperer. Tom, thank you for the information you have disseminated regarding our rights and legal issues. During a recent traffic stop, I used some of the language you provided on Crow's show and was able to assert my rights and control the situation without getting murdered. All God's best to you. Nice. It's great, Trout Whisperer.
That's good news. Glad you avoided the murder. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead.
It's cool to hear. You know, there's a lot of people though that they it's important to realize that it's not a script either. Like there's a whatever I talk about in that regard or anyone else, like there's heaps of great guys talking about this stuff now, like Alphonse. I can't say his last name. It's an Italian sounding name.
Yeah.
Most of the people that end up on Crow, they have a lot of guys talking about it, and he's been on there as well. And it's not about learning the words and repeating it. It's understanding the actual concept behind it. And when you come from that place within you, that's when you have your good interactions with law enforcement and anybody else. But anyway, great to hear. It's good when people are having wins like that.
Yeah, and it's also important that it's interesting that you brought that up right as we were talking about fear. Don't even try if you have fear. So it's like if a cop pulls you over, if you feel any anxiety, apprehension, sweaty palms, fear, just take the ticket. If you see that him as another man, you're a man, he's a man, you understand that it's a realm situation. It's not like I say this, blah, blah, blah. I am a man on the land, and you're holding that. Like, what you're giving off, you're going to trigger a predator response no matter who the cop is. If you just know your rights and know that's just a dude, that's when things really go your way. And the more legal stuff you know, but, like, know it, like, love it. If you want to go down those roads, like, you have to have a love for it, where you're like, oh, no way. Like, I could do an affidavit, and maybe I could, well, I'm going to probably go to take this to court, and, you know, what's your evidence that I was going this fast? Like, just simple shit like that might make them go, you know what, fuck it, I don't want to go to court, it's the summer. You know, like if you stay in that realm, you'll be way better off than just
Yeah.
thinking that you can say certain words in Jedi mind trick, because these cops, I'm close with a lot of cops, and a lot of them are like low vibrational thinkers that are just responding to force. And so, yeah, it's awesome to really just keep the know you're a man, know who you are, know who he is, know where he is, know that you are above the corporate entity called the police, but also love your neighbor as yourself. So it's like, did you break the law? I see this a lot where someone's like, I'm 500 grand in debt. I want to discharge my liability. I saw this video. I'm like, you're fucked. It's like it's like if you want to like a loophole, it's not going to work. If you want to go, if you want to rise vibration, you got to like be really moral so that you don't hurt someone else's property. You didn't fuck up someone's car, like steal some shit or anything, because that won't work. Like if you want to appeal to a higher authority, you got to have a higher authority, you know?
Yep, absolutely. And it's like what you said in one of your recent streams about taxes, then like, you know, guys that have gone down that to such a degree that they just have got themselves out of needing to pay tax or whatever. But you're like, you've got a different stance on it. It's like, you don't want to go down that level of, because it's not exciting for you. It's not.
Yeah.
And the way like you said, the tax system's actually a fair system in some ways, because it's set up where if you actually put money into the community and you're living your dream, you end up not paying it anyway, because it goes into providing, you know what I mean? And
Exactly.
it's the same with your fines, police, everything else. It's like, you've got to be in the right place to do it. There's no get out of jail free cards with learning law. It's
Yeah.
just understanding your place in things. And realistically, I think you brought it up as well. It's like everything we see is modeled on like a different structure or hierarchy that would exist if this one wasn't in place. So if it wasn't the cops pulling you over and giving you a ticket for something, it'd be bush rangers or pirates pulling you over and just
Exactly.
taking you at knife point and taking what you're carrying on you, taking your gallon of milk. If they want it and you're outnumbered and they outarm you, they're going to have it. And it's only once we rise above attracting that kind of energy where we don't actually, even if there was, you know, real pirates walking around with guns and knives and whatever, or gangsters or whatever, we don't actually engage with them on their level. Therefore, we don't get pirated. It's like, it's not necessarily the words of the law. It's where do we occupy space and time relative to those in that part of space and time?
Exactly. Or it's almost like watching those nature shows where like sharks will just swim right by certain fish and they don't trigger each other at all. Like, cause one isn't the other's prey. Yeah, like taxes, like we're hey, what well, Amy's doing stuff. We're going to maybe I shouldn't talk about specific taxes on the internet, but my taxes are great this year because this is, you know, an LLC, it's a farm. So I buy hay, I buy feed, I get local help, I hire a guy to prune my trees. It's like that all comes off your income. And so your currency is supposed to go back out. You're not supposed to sit on it like Smog the Dragon. You know, the people that are like, my printed money, if you're going to sit on your money and not not pay the community and grow a business and hire people, then there's a price to pay for that. And if you don't, if you like, you know, the one big tax bill I had was for Ursa Rio, the land I crowdfunded, because buying land isn't a write-off. It's like an asset, but everything else, hiring locals to do cement patios and stone cabins and all this stuff, it's all a write-off. You know, I sell milk every week to families around here. So the grain, the hay, the land, you know, agricultural land in Idaho is only $1,000 an acre in taxes. That's $20 a year. So it's like, if that's really your obsession, like you might want to stop being such a fucking scrounge. All right, so this is from Bowler Bear. Crushing it, Tom. Terrain theory makes more sense based on my own experience. Thoughts on how a family can all seem to get a cold at the same time? Is it like a yawn or an empathetic reaction to detox? Great question, Bowler Bear.
Yeah, that basically is that. It's also because you got to look at what it is in the first place. A cold or flu is a clean out. It's like a spring clean. So if you need it, you'll get it. It was already the right time to get it. It'll have a sympathetic or an empathetic response to those around you who are going through it. And your body goes, yeah, it's stage. The snot, the mucus, the head, the achy body. That's the end stage of months or even to the point where you have the cold or flu, which is the final expulsion of what's been broken down and exiting from the body. But that's also why you can be in the same family and not everybody gets it. Some do, some don't, because you just don't need it. It's the wrong time of year. It's the wrong temperature. It's the wrong time. Your body doesn't need it. But yeah, you basically answered your own question.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, there's a lot of that in agriculture too. It's like some people will claim that all their chickens died because of like a virus or a bird flu. And it's like, or did you not clean out your coop? You know, it's like they're breathing methane gas. Like if you don't clean out your coop regularly, or you don't give them fresh water or, you know, healthy grain or sunshine, they're going to die. Like animals die cold and wet, bad water, bad food, and loneliness. And so those are pretty much it. You know, people keep wanting to blame every problem on a foreign country and then another animal, whether it's someone ate a bat in China or fucked a monkey in Africa. It's like, or you're banging dudes on poppers in a bathhouse for 5 straight days. Like, all right, here's a couple more things. All right, Tom, thanks for the Australian gravy. What do you think about signing a driver's license non-assumpsit rather than by your name, all rights reserved, from Farmer Bear?
Yeah, you could do non-assumpsit. You could do without prejudice. Yeah, you can do a lot of those, though, in our country and actually Canada too. I've heard they're rejecting them. So people are signing all rights reserved, non-assumpsit, without prejudice, under duress, whatever. And they're knocking them back. They're saying, we don't accept that. We've got these rules within our system that says you can't have additional wording in your signature, which is wrong, which is where you've got to learn how to hold your position, because you'll get that letter and then you'll go, damn it, it didn't work.
Right.
But you've got to hold them accountable. They're going to be making claims and they're lying. So if you hold your position on that to hold them accountable, you'll eventually get your license. But generally, if that doesn't work, you want to be putting something like UCC 1-308, which is the Uniform Commercial Code for under duress, or for without prejudice. So you can put that on there as well. It's just a level of protection, but at the end of the day, that license isn't going to do your work for you. You can't just flash that around at everybody and go, here's my all rights reserved license, can't touch me. You've still got to be the right guy, like we've just been talking about. It's just an extra level of protection. It's useful, but it's not the be all end all. So even if you didn't get it, like I even had a driver's license for about 7 years. I got one in the last 6 months just because it's easier to operate in what I'm doing at the moment. But I didn't even bother signing it all rights reserved because I kind of don't need to. I've got enough in me that reserves my own rights. I don't need my plastic bit of card to do it for me.
I think it's similar to like seduction and like trying to date someone where it's like, hey, will you go out with me? No. Oh shit, it didn't work. You know, it's like, well, read the situation. You know, that's why I don't recommend people get into this shit unless they enjoy it. And like, I love being in front of a lot of people and figuring out what's going to make them laugh. And I used to love the higher the stakes, the better. You know, a bunch of drunk cowboys in a parking lot or a stadium in Scotland, you know, or like opening for Julio Iglesias where nobody speaks English, or like a barracks in Iraq. Like I used to love that shit where I'm like, how can I crack the code of these people to get that guttural response? And 99% of the population would absolutely be terrified and despise what I did for a living. And it's the same with like working and navigating in common law and legalities, unless you like it, unless you're like, oh, well, maybe this will make me ask this, or maybe I appeal to his, the fact that he likes hunting. He's got a sticker on his car, you know, unless you like that, just, you know, avoid the shit, you know, just because the stakes aren't super high. It's like, you don't need to get a vaccine. I mean, we had a baby in a hospital a year ago, like during all this shit, and I didn't wear a mask and no one got a vaccine and it was fine. All right, Balance Bear says, best 2 streamers in this alleged simulation on this alleged realm, allegedly. Thank you, Balance Bear. Yeah, you know Balance Bear. He's the photographer. He's awesome. You guys talked once about aperture and stuff. Yeah, so I know, because I can tell that you talk about that in streams, and you're right on the money, because it's like, if someone has fear, like let's say you have 5 great jokes, and you're like, man, I can't wait to get up there and tell this joke. and then they just freeze. I've seen it 1,000 times in comedy because like every comedian starts with open mics and seeing, you know, everyone's an amateur for like years. They like when they don't get a reaction, they freeze. It's like that with sex. It's like that with everything. It's like when the other body doesn't react the way you think it will, do you just go, you know, and just start pumping? You know what I'm saying? Or do you react? You know, it's very interesting.
Yeah. That's the best analogy. I love that. It's so true.
It's like, oh,
that's what you're pretty much doing.
Yeah, it's like, oh, the
yeah,
thing,
well, you are.
Someone said that kissing her neck could get her horny. I did it. She didn't get horny. So now I'm just going to do this. It's probably like that with fighting. I've been in a few fights, but I've never been a martial arts guy. But like, you know, you're going with the flow. You're not just like, I do this and they go down, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's man, it's just, that's the most primal form of that energy though as well. The way you described it with like, if you're a guy and you think you're going to get a horny and it's just not, and then you pretty much go into panic, fight, flight mode almost. And then that's, if you're not present, that's the thing. Like, I'm not trying to like brag, but I've never had that experience.
Me neither,
and part of it is because I haven't tried to I haven't predetermined what's going to happen. I'm feeling out the interaction. So I generally, like, but I've seen it a lot. That's why it's so funny.
Yeah.
I was actually it was in Byron, this is years ago. I'd gone into this motel with some guys. They wanted to come down. We were living on the Gold Coast, which is an hour north, and they wanted to go out. It's like people come here to party sometimes. So we got this motel, and I'd gone out for a bit. I was pretty tired. I wanted to surf the next day. I was not really into going out drinking in nightclubs and things like that. So I went to go to sleep. Then all the guys come back later at night. And one of them comes in. He comes in through the window with this girl, and he's going, he's trying to get me out. I'm going, why? He goes, I've got a girl there. I've got a girl. And I'm like, oh, okay. I go, well, I'm fine with whatever. Like, I'm basically asleep anyway.
Yeah.
So yourself. And just get out. I only need 5 minutes. Just give me 5 minutes. And I'm just going, if you're going to say that in front of the girl, I'll just get out for the 5 minutes that she's going to be disappointed by.
Yeah,
and
totally.
then before I even got out, he was trying to seduce her like that. Exactly how you're describing it, it wasn't working, even though she was blind drunk. So he just kept going at it harder and harder. He was flailing, trying to get some kind of response out of the girl, as opposed to, you know, feeling out the situation, which he just didn't do at all. And that was, there's plenty of other stories like that. But it's just hilarious to be in the moment, to watch that happening in real time.
Yeah.
That guy trying so hard to hump the situation more than he's trying to hump the girl. It's just like, man, that's not
Well,
gonna
yeah,
work.
and those guys always end up with the most female drama stuff, where it's like, you know, I used to be pretty promiscuous, and I didn't have a lot of drama thrown at me because I was just reading the situation. Like some of these dudes, like some of these women would tell me stories that I couldn't believe, and then I started believing it because like they'd be like I don't want to get too graphic here, but like this one was telling me that the dude just like go like dead-eyed and just start like fingering her, like, did you come? You know, and it's like, no way. And it's like, oh yeah, there's a lot of dudes like that where they just like, they almost just go dead-eyed and just start, because they're full of so much fear. And you're like, the only way to live in that world is to be cool with no matter what happens. Like you're not like, oh, I got 5 minutes. Oh, here we go. It's like, it's people that enjoy being around people and just seeing where things go. And, you know, you're like swimming in a pool. Next thing your kid's like, oh, this is exciting. It can't be like, I'm a free man on the land. I'm a free man on the land. Oh no, they're arresting me because they're Jews. You know, it's like, no, you acted crazy. You know what I'm saying? And that's why a lot of these dudes, and another thing they do is they promise women a bunch of shit and then act like the women were crazy for following up. Like one of my buddies, great guy, but this girl kept calling him for like months. He's like, dude, I hooked up with her and she just keeps calling me. I'm like, I was out with her. Remember when you told her you guys were going to start a gym together? He's like, yeah. I'm like, she's following up on the dreams. Like don't give her dreams. Like just be normal. You don't have to lie. You don't have to be like, oh, want to know what we're going to do? We're going to start a restaurant and a gym and we can travel the world together. It's like, yeah, that's why she thinks that, because you said that. It's like making claims. You know, if you want women to not react that way, don't promise anything you can't deliver and they don't get mad, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's making claims, and it's also the fear that you as a man are not enough. It's a
Right.
man with a helicopter, a boat, and a gym that you'll build together. That's a fear based claim.
Yeah, yeah. It's also like the dudes that need to be so rich too. It's like, dude, some of the most amount of hooking up I did was when I was a bus boy. Like literally in Los Angeles, a bus boy. My job title ended in boy. It was like, and it was just because I was fun. It's like, and then you'd have all these investment bankers and shit that would just be like feeding booze to women, and and that's why I understand why women sometimes feel raped when they hook up with
Yeah,
guys like that, and they're like, I mean, it wasn't rape, but it feels like rape. It's like, because God, you'll see them, they'll just feed them booze, they'll lie, and then they go the dead-eyed, like robotic, like, you know, and it's not it's not like a Somali pirate gang raping you, but it's still like fucking it kind of makes women want to like dye their hair purple and scream at the sky, I guess, you know. I think like the more masculine guys are, like the more like dudes like you and stuff out there, the less women would be freaking out all the time. I think that they're exposed to a lot of these like really tense, you know, goal-oriented lying guys, and so they're like, you know, I'm gonna get a Subaru and fucking, you know, just sell essential oil.
but it's goal oriented, and I've some girls have told me that too. They're like, it's nice to make love when it's not goal oriented, or like it's like goal oriented sex is not appealing. And the problem I think with a lot of women is that, well, with a lot of guys, is that women need that heart connection. And one of the things that guys a lot of times afraid of masculinity or whatever is that ability to open their heart, and they feel it's going to make them weak or make them a pussy or something, but it's actually not. It's like it's that thing that the women need in a lot of cases. Otherwise it's robotic, it's goal oriented, or they go glazy eyes like that because they don't know what else to do. They haven't been able to make the connection, and without the connection then they're just going on, well, maybe if I just do this, it'll, you know, something will happen. But it's there's zero connection. And if there was connection, you wouldn't feel the need to do that. And that's how you know there's no connection.
Yeah, exactly. That's why like the best is just child. Dude, there's nothing like really loving a woman that you connect to hard and you're just like going deep for child making. You know, and that's why sometimes I see these like yacht guys and they're like, oh, I had a threesome. I'm like, I've made 3 boys with my dick. You know, like, you know, let's escalate. Let's start breeding. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
I,
Yeah. It's kind of the ultimate expression of masculinity, really, in some ways, is fathering a child like that. You know, there's like, it's not about the money and everything else. I mean, I used to have that self-limiting belief in some ways of like, how could any girl want me when I was homeless and stuff? And then when I switched that around, I realized it wasn't about that at all. Then they'd actually come to my tent and stuff. And I was like, dude, I
that's
never thought
awesome.
that would be the case. I thought I'd need a house to be able to provide. But it's actually that element. I mean, sure, to create a life with somebody, she's going to want some element of support and security there. But initially, or especially to make a connection and to find somebody's heart, it's not reliant on any of that. And actually thinking that it does will actually prevent that connection as well. And I mean, there's so much in that. But the whole masculinity thing, as you've been talking about as well, it's a massive topic where a lot of guys just aren't really in touch with, even that element where they're afraid of what they are, or they're taught to hide
Yeah.
their masculinity like it's toxic in some way. And so then it actually becomes toxic because you're repressing. It's like the fear we were talking about, where if it's never expressed or never moved, it does become toxic. And so can then it'll come out in weird ways. And then it's the toxic kind as well.
Yeah, and to your point about the tent, it's like struggle actually builds love. You know, I should bring Amy over here to talk about some of this stuff. It's like the opulence you see before you with some of the, like what we're experiencing right now, that's not what our love is from. In fact, when I started getting more success in Hollywood, I noticed a lack of love connection between me and a lot of people, not just women, but like just life. You get tortured on the pedestal sometimes. And like, that's why you see so many divorces with rich people, because they don't really crack that egg and get to the real deal. Like me and Amy could absolutely live in a yurt. We live in a 600 square foot barn, like right now with 3 kids. We all sleep in the same room. We sleep in bunk bed. It's such a blessing. Our last house was much bigger, and I can't imagine. I mean, we're building a house now because we want extended family to live with us, but like to all be on the same sleep pattern and to be around each other all the time, it's one of the reasons my family's so close. And I'm starting to realize why our ancestors were so awesome, because, you know, a small, like when everybody has a room and a wing, you know, I can start looking at these things. I'm like, that's a divorce house. You know, everybody's doing their own shit. They're never around each other. Kids start developing like secrets and weird shit that they do alone. You know, that's why it's like a lot of Native American tribes and stuff would have one major benefit that they would have is like communal living, you know, teepees, yurts. Like that shit makes people not have these like horrible porn addictions or like doing DMT alone, listening to Joe Rogan whacking off. Like you can't do that when you're in the same room as your whole family. You know, it's like, and so that's why I think land is the blessing. That's why I'm so happy with the greenhouse and all we got. But like our kitchen, living room, dining room is all the same room. And then we converted a washroom with bunk beds that we have 5 people in. And it's like awesome. And so that's why it's like, you know, I don't think people should be afraid to struggle. If you follow God, which is following truth, forget about dogma and all that shit. It's like, if you are in that elevated realm, your woman will live with you in a tent. You know, she's in. It's like women that go after guys for money and status and Porsches and shit. They're always banging the help. They're always, you know, I used to do landscaping and shit. Like they're looking because they're not happy. They're not satisfied. And they always.
Yeah, I had it too. I used to have that too. And I wouldn't notice sometimes, but I'd be working with another because I did landscaping and gardening too. And then, you know, it's hot, you got your shirt off or whatever. And he's like, dude, like the woman in there, she's got her face glued to the window. She just looked.
Yeah, totally. Because it's like lying in a cubicle all day, even if you make $1 billion a year, it's not attractive to women. Oddly, neither is acting because you're lying. It's like a lot of these actors, I know a lot of famous people, and it's like you do too. You've done health stuff for a lot of these big people, and it's like women are not super pumped about a guy who spends like hours a day working on accents of other people so that he can lie for money in a foreign place. It really isn't the turn on that people think. It's like women do crave like status and security and shit, but it's way better local. It's way better if it's like the chick at the creamery likes you and your husband has status on a soccer team that they play in the field. It's this global fucking status and like Bitcoin and all that. Like women don't respond to that. They'd way rather have a guy that can make it through hard times and wants to build them a house. And if you do that, you're fine. Like you don't need to be afraid of women leaving you and shit because they don't.
There's that old quote. It's something like a woman unsatisfied needs luxuries and a woman in love will sleep on a board.
Fact.
Kind of explains that.
Yeah, dude, you got to start breeding. Your genetics are being hidden from the world.
Yeah.
You'd be such a good dad too, man. People like you to be dads and like, you know, be fruitful and multiply. So you got to get involved with that because like, you got strong DNA and a lot of knowledge, and it's like, it always gets like I have another buddy that's like worth like 9 figures. He's like really great genetics. It's like real successful. Saw through Hollywood, got out of it. And it's like, but he won't have a fucking kid. And it's like driving me crazy. I feel like his wife. I'm like, he's like, oh, it's selfish. I'm like, dude, it's like, no, you're keeping your talents. You got to spread that seed, you know?
Yeah. It feels like the ultimate purpose, really. It's like one of the, like if you watch what life does from an observational point of view, that's what life does. It continually recreates. So like part of that is continually recreating yourself. But then, you know, the grand manifestation of that is bringing life through, you know? It's like, that's what life wants to do. And when we damn it, you know, it's like the currency when you're saying you're not supposed to sit on your wealth, it's supposed to move around. Because it is currency. And I liken it to tomatoes sometimes. I say, what if you've got 1 million tomatoes or 1 billion tomatoes or 1 billion tomatoes and you just keep them in a barn behind you? They don't last. They're going to go off and they will benefit nobody. And not only will they benefit nobody, they'll become a stinking rancid mess that attracts all kinds of vermin. So you're supposed to It's supposed to move around. And same as that creativity and that thing of life. The life cycle wants to continue. And fair enough, for some reasons, some people can't.
Totally,
But then
totally,
if you
yeah.
have the ability and you're just going, no, I'm going to keep my seed so that I can just become more successful in my own business, or so I
Exactly.
can play guitar more hours a day, or something like that. It's like, are you putting a dam, and are you stagnating life because you're not wanting to let it cycle and go forth?
100%. You know, that's why it's called the family jewels. You got to spend that shit. And it's like, it's funny you brought up
Yeah.
tomato because I love tomatoes. I got all these tomato plants. One tomato can make like 1,000 more plants. And I showed all the bears, like, I was growing tomato plants from seed in my attic all winter that now are like huge. It's like, you guys start thinking that way about your own life. Just keep propagating. And it's like, and you know, all these countries are like bitching about migration, you know, like Europe and America and probably Australia. I think you guys have more like Chinese money though, but you know, in America it's like all these Mexican laborers and all that. And and I know a lot of dudes that get so pissed about that. I'm like, it's because you didn't have any kids. Like my Mexicans are called Walter, Charlie, and Jack. Like they do my labor. When you have a population that didn't replace itself, and they're just like these baby boomers with Buicks, blowjobs, and lollipops, it's like the banks need to bring in a labor force because who the fuck is going to watch the kid? If you have a kid, God forbid the woman watches the kid. No, she has to sell essential oils. So it's like you need to bring in a mom, to bring in a man to do the labor around the yard. And that's why there's migration. It's because it's consensual. You know, it's like I don't want to have America replaced by other countries. So it's like, what do? You do your own landscaping, you dig your own ditches, you know, and then that's it. It's like this cheap obsession with money where people are like, well, I can pay someone $9 an hour. It's like, yeah, now you're contributing to a replacement population of your own family. Like, that's why. Like, don't get mad at the Jews or the fucking Mexicans. It's like, sometimes I see these Arabs and Mexicans and shit. I'm like, good for them. You know, it's like 6 kids in a little apartment working their ass off. It's like, yeah, they're winning in the realm of like demographic war. And it's like, that's why this Israeli-Palestinian conflict, I'm like, dude, the Palestinians won like 30 years ago. All the dudes do in Tel Aviv is bang each other in the ass, and then they hire people to do their labor because they don't have any kids. I'm like, you can't have a democracy because now they're outvoted like 10-1 because Muslims actually have kids, you know? Zionists are like, oh, put it in my butt. And they're like, oh, a kid didn't come out. And it's like, yeah. So now you're going to have a new labor force. Congratulations. And that's it. Dude, it's like wasps, all these populations. It's like they think they're pulling a fast one, and then their entire, like the white Anglo-Saxon Protestants in America pushed all this abortion and the pill and all that because they wanted to lower the black population. All their women started taking it. They had no kids. Oh, you're wearing a Brutari Time shirt. Is that a Brutari Time shirt?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, this is one of the time shirts.
Dude,
Yeah.
check this out. Fuck yeah. So that's my theory on that. And that's why your shit is so good where it's like terrain theory, it's all your health is consent, the law is consent. It's like everything's fucking consent. And it's like the same with labor and money, and it's like, you know, I work outside. I shovel like animal shit every day. I like feed animals. I haul straw. I haul hay. I live in a barn. And all these like envious little gammas are like, I might be nice with all your fucking Jew money. And I'm like, you couldn't do this, you know? And so, and a lot of it came from, and I'll stop ranting in a second, but because I vaccinated my first 2 kids, that's why it's like how you talk about we're all on a path and it's all good. It's like that guilt I felt after finding out what was in it pushed me to get them raw milk, which now pushed me to live a much healthier lifestyle. Now my kids are like just like ripped, legendary athletes, you know, and they're smart. And that might not have happened if I hadn't made that mistake of vaccinating them when they were babies, you know?
Yep, for sure. It all leads, yeah, it's all, and there's the old expression, always a way and all roads lead to Damascus. And it just means like whatever we're doing, it's all leading to that place if we can get in tune with our path and just like not judging what we've been doing as long as we're moving towards a better place. And it's funny with the kids thing because, well, all the most rewarding I've done, most rewarding work is farm work. It's just like You are. You're literally shoveling shit and rolling around in mud sometimes, and it's just so rewarding. It feels so natural. And I've joked with girls before that I want like 5 to 10 kids, and I'm like, just because they're going to be out in the garden with me. It's like they're not going to go to school. They're going to be doing my gardening, and they're going to be doing this, like not for me, but with me.
Yeah.
And it's funny because people's reaction though is like, oh, as in you're going to like create your own little thing of slaves. And I'm like, dude, it's the opposite to that. It's like sending them through the schooling system and everything is creating a slave, but getting them out in the garden with me. And I know this because when I was a kid, I was, in my own estimation, giving it too easy. Yeah, I did some things with Dad in the garden. I helped like nail some the decking together. I learned some skills, but at the end of the day, it was too soft, and I know it. I don't pretend that it wasn't. And I know that it's like it breeds health, it breeds hardiness, the ability to withstand, the ability to set goals, the ability to realize the value in work, the ability to see cause and effect in real time. It gives all that stuff. And I'm not joking when I say to people, from a young age, they're helping me make stuff. They're helping me dig holes. And it's like, that's not slavery, that's freedom.
Oh, dude, you're so right on the money. And it's like, and that's how they get connected to their own land too. Like they want this like rootless serf class in debt going from cubicle to cubicle. Someone a long time ago said, how do you get your kids to not like leave or, you know, sell the farm or whatever? And I had the same thing. My parents thought they were, my dad thought he was benefiting me by giving me a softer life. And my grandparents and great grandparents lived to be like 100 on little farms and shit. And it's engaged them in the work. Like they helped me dig all the holes for the apple trees. They collect the eggs. They do that. And then they're like, this is our land. And that's roots. Those are the people that aren't getting anally swabbed. You know, when you know where your food's coming from, you know, it's so hard to trick people. That's why rural people are impossible to trick. Because it's like, that's why we're mocked as like rednecks and fucking white trash and all this stuff. But it's like, you don't see hell here, because if you know a seed is the greatest engineering feat in the world, it makes an iPhone look like a dildo. You know, it's like, make a seed, make a fish, make a deer. Go ahead. You think you're your own God? Go ahead, make me a deer. You know, and so, and the sheer lack of dependence, one of the biggest spells in the entire world is scarcity. It's like, it's always been my goal to be able to feed like 100 people on like my acreage, and it's totally doable. You know, it's like, it's so cheap. It's not even expensive, you know, and the whole system revolves around people fighting wars and coveting all this bullshit that a farmer is just like, you know, LA's paying $30 a gallon for raw milk right now. Like, that's crazy. And they're like high class, like the high class ones will spend $30 a gallon. And it's probably, you know, knowing LA, the cow has probably been sodomized, so the milk is poison. But dude, I'm not even against slavery. Like slavery, I want to start something called the Builder Buddy program or Farm Friends. You know, it's rebranding it. You know, don't call it slavery. The key is no fences and everyone can leave whenever they want. But a system, especially in massive inflation, like see what 40 grand will get you in 6 months. Like being paid a salary is crazy. Like Joe Rogan went from 100 million to 30 million from Spotify in a year based on our dollar collapse because he wasn't paid in land or. So anyway, if you get people and everybody gets to live the same, and I'm not a communist, but like the Master Buddy and the Builder Buddy, it's like we eat the same food, we have the same quarters, you know, and you just put in the work and you get to eat all the food and you all protect your own kids. That's fucking incredible. You know, homeschool the kid. That's safety. That's safety. That's health. That's everything. It's biblical too. It's like slavery. The idea of it is such bullshit, like chains and barbed wire fence. The real slavery is fucking debt. It's like debt slavery, and it's gonna fall. And so we will have the Builder Buddy program, and it'll be great.
Yeah, and that is the most rewarding times I've had, is living like that. We call it woofing, which is, it's like a thing that people do around the world. They go to organic farms and they work on the land and they get food and accommodation. And it's like, you're not getting paid, but you're getting paid so much more because you're literally you're operating in life in real time, not like I'm making this dollar per hour now to pay for something that I have an overdue bill for last month that I borrowed for 5 years in the future. It's like this weird dynamic that most people, and it is the debt bondage, slavery is the slave system. And I say the same thing. It's like, it's not a hierarchical thing. Like, let's say I'm an architect because I can just see how everything needs to play out to build a property or a house or something. And it's like, oh, the architect, you're like the hierarchical, the head guy, and get paid the most, and you eat on a throne and whatever. But it's like, it's not, because let's say the tiler is the lowest guy, but the whole thing falls apart if the tiler doesn't do his job. So everybody has an equal value in that thing, irrespective of money. So then, as long as at the end of the day, the architect sees things, the tiler does his job, the welder does his job, the plumber does his job, and then everybody sits at the same table and eats the same food at the end of the day, sleeps in the same quarters,
Exactly.
like, which was what you're talking about. That's the essence of living. It's like, some of us might need to direct others what to do, but it's only because that's the skill set. But it's not that they're better than. And as long as there's not, I eat on the throne and you guys eat your filth, you slop down there in the field, then it's like, there's harmony there. And it's I love it. I actually want to ask you a question in relation to that as well, because
Sure.
I've heard you scream on it a few times, but I haven't got like I know where you're going with it, but so many people right now are trying to get me into crypto. And I know that it's a scam because it's all based on fake money, same as fiat system and everything as well.
Yeah.
The temptation, and Bible talks a lot about temptation, but the temptation is that, like, I know guys personally that are like my kind of social status, my values, and they've gone and got crypto and they've turned $7,000 into like $40,000. If they want to, they can cash it in for fiat, and they can maybe like get a deposit on some land or something. So there's like a direct benefit to it. And I'm tempted by that, but I'm like, I still know it's leading us down the wrong track and I can't do it yet. So can you distill down into like a minute worth of all the stuff you've spoken about on it?
Yeah, definitely.
As to why it's like, dude, stay out of crypto for this reason.
Yeah, I think because someone else has to lose for you to make money, and that system will eventually. I think that temptation to make a lot of money in order to get out of the system wouldn't go away. I think it would actually get worse. Because I know people that bought crypto at 200 and sold out at 3,000, and they're like really depressed. So when you're in a carnival ride, there's no winning. I'm not against people that have made money on crypto or bought it at 7, got out at 40, whatever. But when people understand that it's the New World Order's globalist currency, where they want a public ledger that they can control, they can tax it, control it, all of it, and it's worse than a dollar. You can't physically hold it. The whole way to make, real wealth coming from an honest business or land or something like that, everyone benefits. Crypto, it only works because another retard buys it. So that's why they do these pump and dumps where Elon Musk tells everybody to buy it. So the retards buy it. They make all this money. And then Elon Musk sells it and then says it's bad for the environment and it collapses. I think one reason not to get into crypto is also we're at a stage now where you can't really predict if you're going to make a lot of money on it. I think like 2 years ago, if someone rode that swing and now they're like, I'm out. But now it's becoming a point where there's Cum Rocket coin, there's Squirt coin. There literally is a Cum Rocket coin is up 500%. It's like a bubbles bubble. It's all fake currency. And I think that it will take your time and your energy by just refreshing it and seeing where it's going. I'm happy for the people that turn crypto into something real. I know some of the people, God bless them, that's awesome. But most people I know that do crypto, I'm just reporting their behavior, is they never sell it. And they wait for it to go to 1 million or go to the moon, which we've never been to, by the way. No one's ever been to the moon. And then they just keep looking at it. And they look at it. It's no different than burying gold in your underground and just knowing it's there. Like, ugh. There's an old story where somebody buried gold and they used to go every day and look at it. Like, there's my gold. And they do it every day. And then a thief stole it. And the guy goes to his, spiritual advisor. Whoever it was at the time, and says, someone stole my gold. And he's like, were you ever going to spend it? And he's like, no. And he goes, then that's good. you know? And so if someone can time a swing and they know shit or whatever, I'm not against that. But like at this point, you know, people buying into it thinking they can make easy money. I think easy money where you live is land in Byron Bay, you know, organic farming. You could sell DiCaprio, you know, a gallon of milk for fucking $1,000.
Yeah.
But that's just my thoughts on crypto. You know, I know that I ruffle feathers with crypto because some people take it really personally where they're like, you know, I want to make money so I can have what you have and why are you trying to stop me from that? And I'm like, dude, I fucking was gonna buy it at $100. I bought Ethereum when it was like $3. It's now $300. I lost that computer. I have no idea how to log into it. I know that feeling. It's all fake though. It's all like, it's kind of like we were talking about with fear. When you have that greed, I have greed. I feel greed sometimes where you have that feeling of like, might be nice. I could have had a fucking $1 million on Ethereum. Like I have a voice in me. I go, oh, that's that. And I go, that's what crypto is. Crypto is stoking that fucking greed thing in people where it's like, if I don't buy it, I'll miss out on a fortune. Do I think that they are going to use crypto as a global currency? Definitely. So if somebody's like, I'll buy some now in case they use it as the fucking global currency, but if they do, it's going to suck. And I suggest people get in other currency trades so that when that horse shit happens, they're like, oh no, we have all these supply chains and we trade butter and eggs and fucking silver and stuff because they're going to be able to, like when I was kicked off PayPal, it was the craziest feeling. And I've done, you know, I've hosted award shows, I've starred in movies, I've been in 7 movies, I was one of the leads of a sitcom. Like I've committed no crimes, I have no police record, people like me. When PayPal did this with their greasy little finger and took and froze my assets and said I couldn't be on PayPal, when Airbnb said my wife couldn't rent out one of our properties and we had to sell it, when Venmo and all these fucking places said I got kicked off DLive for sitting in my attic telling people to grow fucking tomatoes and have children. When these things happen to me, I realized that if your dollars can go like that because someone doesn't like your behavior, that's really scary. And that's something people should actually be afraid of. Where it's like, if you don't agree to be sodomized by a guy named Ira, like behind a dumpster, well, Joe Rogan videotapes, it's like, oh, that means you hate the LGBT. No money for you. And so it's a sick system, and that's my take on it. Do I think I want my people to be as wealthy as humanly possible? That's why I talk about this shit. I'm not an envious person. My sin was always more wrath and lust. But like, I promise I'm not trying to give advice that will weaken anyone's wealth. Like when you stay in the real economy, it will be unaffected by the swings of psychopathic tyrants. And dude, it is a dying animal right now. This system is like, rah, rah. And Elon Musk, based on his, you don't want your money to be based on the tweets of what I believe a crackhead actor named Elon. It's like, that to me is, I recommend people get apple trees, horses, fucking cows, giant families, local supply chains, and you will experience an energy and wealth that's indescribable. People that look at their Bitcoin going up like this, I mean, it's better than porn, but, you know, that's my thoughts. But I would still be your bro if you got into crypto. I'd still love you and respect you. But that's the thing is I'll go on rants and people think that, like, you know, I won't be their friend if they believe in, like, something that I don't believe in. And I'm like, no, it won't affect our friendship one bit. I think it's total bullshit, and rants are comedic. So that's why I, like, go off on shit for, like, 20 minutes, you know?
Yeah. It's actually funny, like, being on the stream with you as opposed to watching it. It's like the jokes, like, it's a different, it's good. I like it. But yeah, I totally agree. There's an element, though, that it relates to fiat as well, because a lot of the times in the West, we can only have a higher income and more stuff because other people can't. It's still based on the full belly, empty belly model, but I just think less so than the crypto. And like you said, it's moving away from that anyway into the real energy, the real currency that we trade, which is what we do for each other. How do we serve the land? How do we serve our community? How do we serve the animals? So that's a symbiotic relationship that, like, you can't feel greater energy than that with then there's like money can't touch it, gold can't touch it. It's like that is. I think you have to experience it, right? Like you probably people if they're hearing it and they spend all their time in a city, they'd be like, nah, that can't be right.
Right.
But you've got to feel it. Like if you once you've felt it, and I felt it numerous times, it's like that's when I lost the materialism aspect. The only thing that gets me a bit of it, and honestly, it is that fear thing. It's a fear of loss or fear of missing out. It's like if all my friends are making this money in crypto, and then they're the ones that ended up being able to buy a farm, and I've still got like no money, like where do I go then? But it's really only a fear because, like you said, it's all collapsing anyway. And then those guys might be able to buy the farm, and I'll just go in and, it's like, it's the whole fear thing can play tricks on your mind.
Yeah, and you'll be able to live on the farm for free. It's like the best position in society is the friend of the king. Like that farm, think about all this shit they have to go through on the farm. It's like, you're such a likable person and you're a valuable person. So, like, if you were in America, I'd be like, take that acre, go have a family. It's like, that's the real world. Like, the people that want to own the... You bring up a great point about fiat. It's like, I don't like fiat. I don't like that the American military beast can just print $5 trillion and devalue, villagers in the Philippines. Like, that's why I like your thread stuff about pulling the thread about everything that's related. That's one of the things about crypto is the hatred of fiat is bringing in another form of it that I believe is more dangerous because it is backed by nothing and is public and based on, energy and all that. But like, that is a great point. I mean, fiat is fucked up, but I'll tell you, fear of missing out. So my friends are getting $500,000 million from Netflix to do stand up. And literally Joe Rogan said to me, like, just stop saying the shit you're saying. And I just got a Netflix deal for all these people. Like, I already had a Comedy Central deal, all this stuff. It's like, just don't make fun of Caitlyn. Like, just don't, don't make fun of gays or whatever. And I'm like, so I can make fun of straight people but not gay people? Like, what the fuck kind of world is that? And so I witnessed, if you want to do a little time travel, I watched them all take that deal, just like crypto. And now they're literally performing in front of parked cars that honk in approval. I swear to God, because their audience is so brain dead and fearful and psychotic. Meanwhile, my audience will go anywhere with me. They're awesome. We all do shit. Like, they literally, it's like the sheriff and the fucking farmers, I'm like in the real world. They're living in absolute hell, but they can't really tell the world about it because they're not allowed to speak. So they're like these frozen entities. Like, dude, these people did not get into stand-up so that they could be like, oh, Caitlyn's brave and beautiful. Like, that's fucking insane. And so the fear of missing out is like, oh, Owen, you're so stupid. I was called crazy and stupid by literally everybody I knew in LA. Like, just about everybody, except for my boy Kevin that you actually remind me of. He's a Paul Check guy too. He's awesome. But he was crushing, by the way, in LA because he just wouldn't cuck. But they're all, like, none of them are having kids. They're all on drugs. They're all drinking. They all, like, are terrified. They wear masks. To be on a Hollywood set now, every single day, they have to shove something in your nose hole. You have to wear them. This is how fucking psychotic their lives are. That when they sit in their little chairs with their fancy names on them, they have to wear a mask the whole time. Then they go to a scene where they can make out and like mime fuck a girl. Like totally. And then they go back to their chair and they put their mask on. And then they sit in traffic and they go to a house that I think is worth about 80 grand that they paid $3.5 million for of nonsense money that doesn't have any reality in the real world. And so that's what I see these patterns and I'm like, so the greed of fiat where it's like, dude, I know you don't understand it. I know it's fucking crazy and makes no sense. It's like gold for people with autism. But like, if you buy it, you'll be able to have a farm. It's like, they said the same shit to me in LA. They're like, if you just play ball, even though you don't understand this, you're giving up everything you believe in, you're going to have your own Netflix special. You're going to be able to tour anywhere you want. It's like, yeah, but then I'm like lying. And so now they're all insane. And so they're just like, you're so stupid, Owen. And like, now they're texting me again, like, hey, how are you? I'm like, you're not getting any of my milk, asshole.
Yeah, which is the real gold. It's like there's a term for it, and you've used it. It's like it's some kind of deal. It's where you take that deal, but what you give up and you create your own prison. There's a term for it. I don't know if you know what I'm talking
A
about.
Faustian deal?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, Faustian.
Yeah. Is it weird that the dude's name's Fauci, like a Faucian deal?
I know. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you get to live forever, but you have a life sentence in prison. You have a Ferrari, no gas. You have the hottest wife in the woman who hates your dick. You know, it's like it's so there. And when it comes to money, like you'll have no problem making money. You're such a valuable guy. It's like, because I know I have the same thing as you where I have a slight hatred of money where it's like, don't buy me. I see the evil of it. I see what it's done. But at the same time, you almost have an obligation for your community to build and to be compensated for that, and then to give them health advice, get some land, get a family, and then other people will view you and want to be like you. And so, you know, I think that, you know, doing consultations, selling your book, you can make more money than all the fucking crypto. Because here's the thing about crypto, it's parasitic. I know the dollar's fucked up, but it's almost like layers of a Ponzi scheme. So it's like the more crypto makes, the more the dollar loses. And so if a Bitcoin's worth $1 million, how much is bread? You know, that's why I went right back to the source. I'm like, I don't care if my cow is 10,000 Bitcoin or $1. It's the same amount of milk every day. And so when you have that mindset, these swings are like, it's Weimar Germany. I was a World War II history major. I'm like, this is what happens. People go insane. They make it so it's like, oh, I'll pay you $1 million to kill this guy. Oh, no way. What can I do with this $1 million? You can buy another bullet, and now you have to kill another guy. It's like, what the fuck? I thought $1 million set me for life, you know?
Yeah, and there's like the value thing is there because even with you know, the fiat thing, like if you sell somebody a book or you do a consult for them or something, yeah, the whole money system's not that, but there's a real exchange of value where you've both gone up in a level of some
kind. Both win.
So like,
yeah.
Yeah,
crypto is so, like, I mean, crypto requires a retard. Like it's like one of these horror movies where every time you give someone a pie, they die. It's like the fucking Ring where you give someone a VHS tape, but as long as you don't keep it, it's like hot potato. Dude, it's like, imagine being, like, think about how many people I've encouraged, like, to farm and to have kids and shit for years. And I've been doing this for 15 years. It's like, yeah, I've become more of a truther now, but comedy has always been energy. It's like all my male-female jokes from 10 years ago, it's like, I'll be walking down the street, a guy will be like, oh, your joke helped keep us together. You want to meet our kids? And those people send me $100 in my P.O. box like, dude, thank you. Keep crushing. Like my life went from despair to fucking really enjoyable. Like, think about all the value you bring people with health, where it's like, man, I was addicted to all these pills and I just started eating fucking eggs and all this stuff and now I feel great. Thank you. And then they want to help you any way they can. So they'll be like, here's $500, man. It's nothing compared to what you helped me with. I was spending $2,000 a fucking month on like dialysis or something, you know? And so it's a win-win-win. And then the community builds. And meanwhile, there's a crypto guy that keeps jerking to one screen and then greeting off to this screen. It's like, oh, how much can I get with this? Oh, I'm going to jerk off to this homeless runaway. Meanwhile, I go to a Q message board and pretend like I'm fucking helping to stop sex trafficking as I jerk off to sex trafficking. You know, it's like Fauci and deals.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's crazy like that, but it's I mean that's kind of what I gathered. I just hadn't really got it dialed down into one little way that crypto is not really the way, but it does also. It's just so obvious that it's like it's a cashless thing. Like, isn't that how they want it to go? They want it to be that. To me, it's like if we lose cash, we're like
exactly.
It's either you're all in or you're all out. You've got to be all into that cashless system, or you've got to be all out and like, nah, I'm only trading milk and eggs and my own labor on somebody's land. There's kind of no middle ground to me, unless I've got it wrong, but it just seems like there's no middle ground.
Yeah, and if you look at what they want out of crypto, it covers everything. You know, people think it can't be regulated because of the dark web and all that. I'm like, dude, but the Biden administration just seized the $5 million in crypto that hacker just did. They just took it back. So I'm like, oh, so you can do that? And then they're like, and then people are like, yeah, but they do that with the dark web. I'm like, dude, they bring in the drugs. Like, they want illegal activity. They need the Reds and the Blues in America, the Bloods and Crips have the same colors as Republican and Democrat. It's like they need street violence to justify their infrastructure. Like they want you to buy crack on the dark web. What they don't want is for people to like hack the fucking a pipeline and take $5 million, you know? So they'll just shut it right off. Like Biden already wants to tax it 80%. You know, crypto's taxed. Like there's no, so the guy who started Bitcoin is named Satoshi Nakamoto, which translates to Central Intelligence. Like they're hilarious. Like they're fucking hilarious. It's like Satoshi Nakamoto. Who is he? It's like a Japanese guy will tell you Satoshi means central and Nakamoto means intelligence. It's like, that's hilarious. But again, if you want to get into it, I'll still be your bro. It's like, I know I can rant, but what I see as far as patterns is that if people want to use it and do it, it's all good. You know, I got friends that are all about crypto, but from my point of view, you can, and it's not even about like making money because the real economy is so much more profitable. Like my guys do it, like helping me build this house and plumbers and all these people, they're making like $100,000 a year with permanent job security. You know, like a plumber, a carpenter, like these cubicle jobs suck. Making $30,000 a year for Netflix when you have to go to college for $250,000 in debt. It's like, if you just like mow people's lawns and get paid $100 in cash, you do 6 of those a day. Like you're a rich person, you know?
Totally. Yeah. And it's rewarding too, because that's the element that I've always seen with people who are the, Spruiken essential oils or their online, like, traders of stock or whatever. They're not fulfilled because there's no direct value.
Right.
It's like you can watch numbers going up and down all day, but you've given nothing into the world in order for your bank account to fill up. It's just been filling up based on fake numbers, as opposed to mowing someone's lawn and in real time you're seeing it. You're seeing the effect. You're seeing the lines in the grass. You're like, that feels good. The smell, the happy face on your customer, the exchange of the cash for what you've done. There's an element of energy bought there or built, but there's not when you're just trading fake numbers. There's not, you might be like, oh, look, my money's gone up. It's based on, it can come down because you see the numbers come down. You're like, oh no, I'm depressed.
Exactly.
Numbers up, I'm happy. Numbers down, I'm depressed.
They're sucking the energy off you, and also unearned wealth makes you depressed. It's like what our dads did, where it's like, I'm going to give you a soft life to help you. And it's like, how, if you just get money that you didn't earn, it's like, not only does it not help you, you feel like lost. I had a guy doing cement on my land yesterday, and there was like 100-foot fucking like pipe thing in the sky, and there's this giant mixer, and he's got this remote control, and he's pouring a foundation. And my kids were looking at him like he was like a god. And they've met famous people, and they're like, that guy smells weird. You know, and they're looking at the cement guy, and they're like, oh my, and the guy like crushed. You know, he knew how to fix all his hydraulics. He was like, you know, the confidence, the energy, the fact he was building the foundation of a house with a fucking, his own truck, like just cement, like, you know, earth, rock going in the sky and coming down. And my kids looked at, that's why having kids breaks so many spells, because my kids would look at a Netflix executive and be like, are you gay? You know, it's like, like what are you, why do you, it's just like they wouldn't even know. Like, no, my kids would be nice. They wouldn't call him gay, but I'd be like, oh no, it's a really important job. He gets to determine what goes on your TV screen. It's like, so he has to be inside all day? It's like, yeah, it's like he has to sit down all day. So he has to eat. Where's the food he eats? Why is nobody being nice to him? Where's his friends? He doesn't get to see his wife, or where's his mommy and daddy? It's like, they'd literally be like, okay, they'd be nice. They'd be like, bye. They'd be like, I don't want to go back here anymore. Like if I took them to like the penthouse of the stock exchange, they'd be like, why does everyone have big bellies? Why do they all smell like alcohol? You know? And then you go outside to like a cement pour and they're like, this is fucking incredible.
Yeah, man. Yeah, kids know, they just know it and they can see it. They've got no sense of what status is supposed to be. So they just go, that looks shit. Doesn't matter that it's built backed by millions of dollars, and that looks awesome.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's really important is that cement guy who's building something, who can fix his own machinery and his hydraulics and whatever, and he's working with the machine, that's a man.
Yeah.
But a guy that's just trading stock and drinking alcohol or acting and pretending to be somebody that he's not, that's not a man. And kids know it. kids just know it. It's so simple.
Yeah, yeah, and money doesn't. It's like, and what you do, like having 5 grand in the bank, living with different people, like just going off your gut and your heart. It's really inspiring. Like it doesn't. It's not as inspiring to just be like, I inherited $1 billion because my dad invented a butt plug, so now I'm selling you oil. It's like, I don't know. I think it's awesome to have the confidence to be like, dude, whatever comes, comes. I have the skills to deal with it. And you know, like I spend all my money. It's like I make good money now, kinda, because like I had to start my own shit because I was kicked off everything, and I it's kind of like my skill is just not cucking. Like it's almost like a cement pourer when they're like, so why do I want you to be my comedian? I'm like, I never cuck. Where do I sign? It's like no matter what the system throws out, and watch all the comedians get rid of a word or not make fun of some. I'm like, I don't do that. So where do I sign? But see, I put it all out. That's why I make this area. I'm in zero debt, but I like spend it on alpacas and cows and all this shit. And that's real wealth. You know, people will look at their fucking wealth on a screen all day. And my dad used to do that, just obsess with it. And it ends up like eating them alive, you know? And that's what I see. I see Bitcoin as that on steroids. All right, if anybody has any, because we're losing light, if anybody has any final questions or comments, entropystream.live/app/Owen Benjamin Comedy. Yeah, and it's like, for what we do, just tell people to tip you. It's like you tip a piano man, you tip a health guy, you tip like entertainment. You know, if you just had a button on your site or like whatever, it's so honest to do that, where it's like, you know, I've been a waiter and a valet and a piano player and all that. Someone puts a 20 in your thing and says, play piano man, that's fucking honest. So it's like, if you talk for an hour and someone gets a lot out of it, it's like, tip the piano man. And you can make a way better living doing that than staring at a fucking Bitcoin screen, you know? Great stream.
People have been too, actually. It's been great.
Yeah, and dude, it's honest. And it's like, so yeah, is there anything else you want to talk about before we roll? Because my natural light source is moving.
Yeah.
I believe it's moving away on a flat plane, but you know, whatever.
No, that's good, man. I reckon it was great just to cover the whole fear thing and the reality, like what's really our main currency that we deal with and that we'll never lose, and that the fear will diminish it if we buy into that. I think we covered a really good aspect there, so I'm pretty happy.
Yeah, and I know I was rambling a lot, but I've been not eating fat or protein to like cleanse my liver, and I've been getting like crazy amounts of energy, and I've been like being I'm like chatting like I had my first Red Bull. I'm just like zzz. Because, I don't know. Oh, I wanted to ask you that. What do you think about that? My buddy was telling me that, like, before I get back into, you know, raw meats and dairy and stuff, like, I'm on, like, raw veggie and fruit and just really shit like that to get my liver back so that I can, like, get the good calorie-rich, dense food again. Because I think my body was not absorbing, like, steak and shit anymore. It was, like, I don't know. It was making me really, like inflamed, and now like my body's just going like this.
Mm-hmm.
What's your thoughts?
Yeah, well, you can definitely overdo it, that's for sure. Some people overdo it, especially if it's cooked. Like the raw stuff, harder to overdo, but you still can, because not all of our bodies need it all the time, and especially when it's in different cycles with nature. Like you'll know traditionally, put it this way, like I haven't eaten meat for a few months. And it's only because I haven't had the taste for it. My body doesn't need it, but we're coming into winter soon and I'll be eating it more.
Totally.
But realistically, if we were living it, it's like there was 12 to 30 of us in a tribe. We wouldn't be eating meat every day. We'd probably take a cow once a month or a buffalo or something, and it'd be done ceremonially. We'd gorge on it, and the gallbladder stores a lot of bile for that purpose.
Yeah.
A large amount of fat and protein come in, and it stores it for that. The rest of the time, we're actually more eating insects, berries, raw milk, living off the land a bit more. And then we'll take an animal and we'll go through it all in one go. We'd have longer periods without than we would have with it. So doing something like, you know, juices, a bit of fruit and things, like going really light on things for a while can get the body to be more, stable in itself. And then when you do go ahead and have high fat protein meal, come time when it's ready, your body will just it'll gorge on it, and your body will take every part of it and no inflammation. So, and after that, it's a matter of just being more in in touch with what you're feeling like you need, rather than, oh, meat's good, I'll eat meat today, or I should only eat fruit today, so that's all I'm going to do. Like should like in the mind, as opposed to letting the body pick what it wants. Which, especially living as close to the land as you do, it should be pretty easy to figure out what your body actually does want, as opposed to what you think it should have. You know what I mean?
Bro, that's so true. That feels so right to me because it's like I'm obviously pro meat eating and stuff like, but when you got that clean vibe, like you've been drinking some lemon juice in the morning, you have like, you know, some raw greens that you have, some berries and shit. You do that for a few weeks and then you have like bone marrow, you know, like raw bone marrow. It's like bang, you know, you feel alive.
Yeah.
But if you eat all that shit every day, I was getting like, you know, I was feeling very like heavy and very inflamed because like I have so many, I get 100 eggs a day and all this shit. We have a very high fat protein diet that I think the springtime, like just going straight up almost vegan, but not philosophically, you know, but like that vibe has been a great spring cleaning. And I've been craving like some honey, I think the local honey for the enzymes and shit.
Yeah, for sure. That helps. Anything, there's a lot of herbs and things, and anything bitter helps with the liver as well. So stuff like radish, I don't know what else. I've seen you grow radish actually.
Oh, I eat radish every day. Yeah, I love radish.
Yeah, so things that are bitter, they help with the liver. So does citrus. You might even want to do a gallbladder flush at some stage, which is pretty much fasting for the day and then doing citrus of some kind, like grapefruit juice or lemon juice, and you have olive oil with it, like pretty much half a cup to a cup of olive oil. You have too much, you'll spew, but having a decent amount, that helps the liver and the gallbladder to flush, and it can flush out kidney stones and things like that as well. You can do a lot of things. There's a lot of herbs. So this is where, for me, the plant world, and this is what I want to be doing, is I want to be getting on some land where I can be growing medicinal plants. Like literally all of the stuff that's grown for, to me, this is only my personal way of looking at it, but I feel like the animal foods are more of our staple foods, the way we're naturally designed to be.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not discounting vegetables, but the plant kingdom, I think, comes into play with its medicinal qualities. Yeah. And a lot of weeds, things that aren't like made by man, but things that are natural weeds and plants that grow without our help. When we learn to use those properly, that's the thing that gives us all of that boosts liver function, that boosts kidney function or brain function or gonad function or whatever. All the Chinese herbs, you know, like ashwagandha and rhodiola and schizandra, all these adaptogenic herbs that actually work with our body, and every land has its own native version of that. And I think that's what I want to do. I want to actually cultivate all the medicinal herbs and then make different tinctures from them. And you know, there's going to be a time where, coming into the future, we do need our own animals to provide milk and eggs, and occasionally flesh, but not all the time. You know, maybe one passes. But the other things that we need is these medicinal herbs. These are our traditional medicines. Before the advent of modern medicine, that was medicine. Like painkillers, that came from white willow. White willow bark was the original analgesic or painkiller.
I got a willow right there. Look at that. That's a willow tree right there.
Yeah, right.
Wait.
Yep. It all comes from the plant kingdom, and then it was turned into pharmaceuticals. So we need to not forget about that aspect that we have around us, and I think we need to be cultivating it now, so that if and when supply chains do collapse, we've got our own medicines ready to go. We've got our own food supply. We've got everything around us that we need. So that's my goal at the moment as well.
Yeah, because the way the medical world's going now, a lot of people are done with it. I'm just like, you guys are fucking nuts. And so I think that's a great path. I mean, we're making dandelion honey, basically. It's awesome, where we collect dandelion. Yep. This is what I'm talking about, why you got to get 5 slave kids. You have them pick up... You have them pick up all these dandelion, and then we press them, and we turn it into like this jelly, but it tastes just like honey. It's amazing, and it's like we made our own pesto today with basils. We had the kids collect basil, and then we made pesto, and it's just like it's an incredible way to live. But I totally feel you about the you gotta have that balance, because milk and eggs are crucial, I think, for a healthy diet, and then everything else around you. Like a lot of shit that people think are weeds is the best shit. Like I love dandelions. Dandelions, they taste great. They're filled with all kinds of vitamins and minerals. They're awesome.
Totally. Yeah, and it's all around us too. That's the thing.
Yeah, it's like
like
nature's always trying to heal you. Like they're like, "Come on, I'm right here," and all these people are like in a mass spraying it with poison, and it just keeps coming back. Like a dandelion's like breaking through fucking concrete. Like, bro, I'm still here, and it's like, oh no.
Yeah.
That do you think a lot of people are gonna die in the next year?
Yeah, I do. Yeah,
Me too.
I do think. But yeah. Yeah, I'm not going to celebrate it, but I'm not going to mourn it either. It's just kind of it's the way things are. It's the cycle of life. It's the way things have. We've asked for it. We've those, like you said, it's not just that we've consented to some things. We've actually begged for it. We've begged to be ruled. We've begged to be pushed around because we've not just consented to it, but asked for it. So those that are going to walk into it, they've consented, and those of us that are going to live on and find our own way, we've consented in our ways. You know, there's it's just it's that whole judgment day thing about when you're supposed to what the Bible speaks about in many different ways. That's kind of I think what we're coming to in however that's going to look. So yeah, I'm ready. I know you're ready. Most of the Bears are ready. So
yeah. Well, like for me, I'm always trying to deal with the Survivors Guild aspect. So you've helped me a bit on that, where it's like, oh, you know, some people need to do that in their path, and that's awesome because I'm not celebrating it. I'm like, dude, I like see shit. You know, I'm not like a psychic or anything, but like, I can see what's coming, and it's so fucking nuts that I'm just like, how is this gonna work? And yeah, Wobbly Bear and Zezzy Death Bear both said, haha, back to death. I'm like, I just want to figure out the emotions to not get like worked up about it. Cause it's like, people are not, you can tell this system is also actively trying to kill a lot of people, which is not terrible. It is what it is, but it's like a lot of people I don't see any way out for a lot of people. Like I really don't.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are too far into it, and they're just what we're going to see is the end result. Like what I said, a cold or flu it's years in the making, and the last thing is the snot and the headache and the achy body. I think that the death that we're going to see, the die-off from people, is many, many years in the making. It's almost like you go through a certain amount of breaking down and detox in the body, you can't avoid the end result. It's going to happen whether you like it or not. You've gone too far into that process to not have a blocked sinus or something. And I think that's where people are. They've gone too far down that path that this end result of dying off at the end, I think is just, it's just going to happen. I think a lot of people have a choice, though. The greater majority of people have a choice.
Yeah, totally.
And it's whether or not they can step into understanding what they are in their own power, realizing it's literally the powerlessness is creating that. You can flip that in an instant. It's not a long-term process. I have to read more books, have to watch more live streams, have to work out in the gym. It's not that at all. It's a flip, and it's an instantaneous flip. To come into your own power, and it's just by seeing things different. It's just another perspective. So the inverted world that we're given, it's like literally just flipping it, and that's it. The inversion is the answer. It's just whether or not people want to do it. It's like red pill, blue pill. Take it, and either way, you pick your end result.
Yeah, totally. I used to do a bit. I was like, when they were talking about red pill, blue pill, I'm like, my rule of thumb is don't take a pill off a strange black guy in a trench coat. I don't know. I thought that was kind of funny, but yeah. Do you feel like it's almost like an alternator of a battery, and we might flip right side up after all this shit? Like it's almost like an inverter in an engine. It's like it's inverted, and then after this shit all bubbles out, you know, in the Bible it talks about last will become first, first will become last. It's like, do you see the flip coming where you know the world becomes It's like. Guys, I know I've been fanboying a lot with Tom. I'm a big fan of Tom, and I've been talking a lot. Go watch all his videos because I keep referencing to all the shit he talks about and talking a lot. But, like, I think that's – man, I just forgot what I was going to say. It was something he said in a video, but I can't remember. But something about, like, when the flip happens – I don't know. What's your thoughts on it? I sound like a retard.
No, I totally. I honestly, I'm not a psychic either, but I've just felt what it's like on the other side, and it's amazing. It's nothing to fear. It's like being on top of a water slide at a water park, and you're 5 years old, and you're like, no way in hell I'm going down that thing.
Yeah.
And then someone pushes you all at you. And once you've gone over the edge and you take the ride and you come out the other side, it's like, I just want to do that again. That was the best feeling. And that's what to me it's like on the other side of this. It's just like a shift. It's like people talk about magnetic or polar shifts with the earth or whatever it is, going through the eye of the needle, whatever it is. The other side is just, it's amazing. It's well worth it. It's the light at the end of the tunnel, however you want to look at it. Almost every ancient script talks about that. And what we're seeing now, I'm about to do a live stream on this, probably not today, maybe tomorrow, but it's like what we're seeing now is nothing new at all. We're not going through anything different. It's like when somebody's wearing a mask and they're like this belligerent, like asshole kind of sex, drugs, rock and roll, whatever. And then all of a sudden they become, oh, I'm spiritual now. I'm a super spiritual guy. The same thing that was driving it is the same. It hasn't changed. It's just put a different mask on. It's like, I'm rock man, I'm spiritual man. It's just a different mask.
Yeah.
And what we're seeing in the world is what we see, coronavirus and lockdowns and Bill Gates and all these people, it's just the manifestation, what it physically looks like, but from the same thing that's driving the behavior, and the mask's just changing. But what we're doing, the thing that's the growing pain, the death that we're going to see, is literally just that lower vibration dying off and raising to something else. And then what happens as a result of that is that we do experience a much finer reality, if you want to look at it that way, but it's only because we've met it. It's like you can't be a low vibrational being and then unless you can match what the shift is that we're experiencing, you won't really you'll perish, so to speak. And that's why people aren't going to make it. And it's not that it's out of their capability, it's a decision. It's like, I don't want to operate there. And that's really where I see it going. But the end result is that the growing pains that we're going through are just that. Once you make it through that, it's really plain sailing on the other side. However, there's always got to be something to go through while we're in this human experience. I don't think it's ever just going to be full on utopia with no problems and no nothing. But the challenges will always be there. But this growing pain we're going through now just lead to something good is all I can say, really.
That's awesome, man. I totally agree. And I think that's why they call it the coronavirus. It means crown. You know, it's like your crown chakra. It's like rising up. You know, like I don't know if they do that on purpose with spellcraft or these things just bleed out. Like the truth just bleeds out. But, you know, I always said that when the mask went on, the mask came off. You know, like I saw that when everybody's masks started going on, I'm like, I see who you are now. And there is this like separation of vibration. And it's like some people, and it's not really horror because they're almost like, no, I'd rather just die than face like hard truths in my life. And that's their choice. It's like being on a plane that's crashing and you're so scared of the parachute that you're like, I'd rather just die. And it's like, okay, see ya. It's like, all right. But I mean, it's like dude, it's like, I'm looking at like 100 million in America that I'm like, how the fuck are you surviving this? You know?
Yeah, well, and the thing about the crown thing too is when you crown, you're crowning. It's as you're being birthed. It's like this moving through into this new way or a new life. So there's a lot in the corona thing as well. And I think it is very deliberate. It's like this is the word, the spells that are put into play for good reason.
Well, sweet, man. I'll let you go in case you want to do your live stream. I'll definitely listen to it. But where can people find you and all that good stuff?
Yep, so tombarnett.tv is the best place. I've had another couple of videos pulled off YouTube. That's to be expected. I've got Facebook and YouTube, which is where I usually live stream from, just because the platform's good to live stream from. But then it all goes on tombarnett.tv, where everything's kept. All the videos I've ever done that have been taken down are there. You can support there as well. And there'll be courses and that coming up too that people can get onto. So that's where and mailing list. So if you go to the contact section, I do recommend going on the mailing list because, you know, as I said earlier, if all of those channels go down, then if you still want to get content, you can actually get it delivered via email as to where you can watch and how you can find things out.
Yeah, and all that's a choice too. It's like in 6 months, if someone's bitching that all they have is Cardi B, it's because they didn't join your mailing list. It's like that simple. It's like, come to BitChute, come to Unauthorized, come to this. It's like, well, I didn't though. It's like, why not? It's like, I don't know. So this is what you get. It's like the path is narrow, and it's like if you want dudes that talk like me and Tom are talking, where we can, you know, just talk honestly and about the shit that you see in your life, you're gonna have to seek it out. You know, I mean, these are also Christian ideals that are also in everything. It's like seeking you shall find, asking you shall receive is in like every major cosmology. And it's because if you want good shit, just join a mailing list. It's not even a big obligation, but the people who don't, it's like, well, when Tom disappears from YouTube, which he will, and you're like, where was that guy with the beard that I really liked? It's like, fucking there where he told you to go. So,
Yeah.
all right, man. Thank you, brother. And we'll talk soon. It's been awesome.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
All right,
Catch you
peace,
later.
brother. All right, that was awesome, guys. That was a great Tom Barnett. Really enjoyed that tremendously. That's gonna be it for me tonight. I was only gonna do like an hour, but that was just so engaging. I'm in the chat, the Telegram chat right now. Anything you guys want to talk about real quick? Like any comments? I was kind of fanboying out a little. Tom is just such a fucking legend. I listen to all his videos. He's just such a solid guy that you know, I was getting very chatty. Movie choice tonight, Demolition Man. Oh, I've seen that. It's there's some truth drops in there. I don't think Sandra Bullock's a man, by the way. I think when people act real masculine for too long, they start getting male traits. If you look back at old Sandra Bullock, she's very feminine. Just because she now seems to have the jaw of a fucking heavyweight. How good stuff would be. Did you get his number? No, Balance Bear. I don't know what you're trying to say by that. Kyneton says Tom Barnett. Oh, yeah, awesome. Any final thoughts? Anybody? Awesome stream. Telegram could be the near future. Yeah, you can get my streams at Telegram, Unauthorized. You guys know all this shit, though. If you're here, you know all this shit. I'm going to go inside. I'm just, I've been having so much energy lately from my diet that I just feel like talking for fucking hours. It's crazy. Maybe it's all the foreskin cream she used on her face. Did you guys hear Ellen got canceled? I think that's hilarious. I'm not afraid anymore, but yes, there's going to be a lot of death. Yeah, I mean, sorry for being morbid and talking about that shit a lot, but like, is anyone else just trying to ready themselves for like really fucked up? You know, that's why I like listening to Tom, because not a lot of people have the knowledge of what's coming, but is also not scared or doing fear porn. So, like, to view it as like a baby being born, like the crown chakra, the birth of something new and better is awesome. Because I don't see how 100 million people aren't dying in America. I mean, I'm not going to put a number on it, but guys, it's so fucking crazy. Oh, I should have asked him about borax, Bowler Bear. All right, that's it for me. If you want to support the stream, every bit helps. That was the best synopsis stream for our current climate. Yeah. P.O. Box 490, Sandpoint, Idaho, 83864. Unauthorized.tv, entropystream.live/app/Owen Benjamin Comedy. BertariaTimes.com, unbearablesmedia.com. Just keep it in the real economy. If you like this and you want to tip me, go for it. That's the move. Because like the get-rich-quick schemes of like crypto and all that is... What'd you guys think of my advice on crypto? Do you think that made sense? Dad Jawline? Yeah. I've heard the Memphis bridge thing may be to block supply chains up and down the Mississippi River. I don't know how much of it is planned, but yeah, it's fucking nuts what's happening. But fear is a low vibration, even if it's like crypto is a trap. Yeah, but I hope I said it without being too angry about crypto. I know I can rant. I've heard the Memphis bridge thing. Maybe like Tom was like, in under a minute, what's your thoughts on crypto? I'm like, okay, so do you have 10 quick minutes? I couldn't stop. For you to win at crypto, someone has to lose. Morally bad. Right, exactly. Exactly. And if even if you have good goals, like to make a lot of money in crypto to get farmland, it's like once you know what crypto is, it's really hard to achieve your goals because you'll just keep staring at that stupid number. Ellen DeGenerate no longer fills a purpose for the beast equals cancel. Yeah. And they're all dead. Yeah. Tom was definitely unsold on crypto. Good. And so, either way, though, see, another thing I'm glad that you guys saw is like, I'll still be your friend if you're into crypto. When I do comedic rants, it's not like I hate you. You know what I'm saying? People get like that. They're like, man, I've been a bear for years, and man, I do crypto, and I'm like, fucking fine. I don't care. Like, I literally don't care. Nailed it on crypto. It's probably going to keep going up, but it's gay. It might not even keep going up. I mean, they probably want to make it keep going up because to keep the greed going so that people engage with it. But I don't know. I'm not seeing it. All right, that's it. Yeah, but don't talk about it nonstop. I know, but I can actually be a dick about it nonstop. You guys know me. I can get obsessive, whether it's the Trinity or crypto or the word nigger. It's like I go hard at shit until I understand it. All right, I think it's wild. People still need that explained. I updated your bio on Gab to remind people you're a comedian. It's literally what you do. Yeah, I think it's because I say a lot of true shit, but comedians say true shit. That's like our art form. But we do it in a highly charged rhetorical manner, which is going to get a big response. It's literally our art form. And like, I've been kind of, I wouldn't say revolutionizing comedy, but to do it from a live stream every day without an audience is a different medium. And it can make people kind of forget that I'm a comedian and forget that my delivery style is going to be hyperbole, exaggeration, yelling, shit like that, you know, rhetorical charging. So I think something that happens to me is I'll say really true shit and really funny stuff and people really like it. And then I'll say something they disagree with, but because of the way I'm saying it, which is comedic, they take it really personally. As if I'm like their pastor or some shit. And I'm like, no, I'm a comedian. Like that's my job. It's like, oh, it might be nice. You get to say you're a comedian when people are offended. It's like, no, I'm literally a comedian. Like, I'm one of the best comedians in the world. Fact. How dare you? All right. Unauthorized data. You guys get all that. All right. Follow the Gab. Follow all the shit. I'll see you guys Monday. Be fruitful and multiply. Don't be fruity and blow a guy.